4 stages involved in launching a ballistic missile. The first one is the boost stage. It starts at the point the missile is launched and ends after all the rocket fuel is burned and the missile is propelled into the exosphere. The next stage is the post-boost stage. It starts after all the fuel is burned and ends after the re-entry vehicle is ejected. Next is the intermediate course stage. It takes place after the re-entry vehicle is ejected and lasts until the missile enters the exosphere. Then comes the final stage. It starts when the re-entry vehicle enters the exosphere, and it lasts until it reaches its ultimate target on the ground. Missile defense systems use military satellites to detect rocket emissions during the initial boost stage of a missile. But this new nuclear weapon employs the railgun's ability to fire projectiles at ultra-high velocities instead of using a rocket. That's why it can't be detected by today's missile defense systems. And on top of that, the re-entry vehicle also uses stealth technology. It's so accurate that its 50% zone comes close to 50 meters. That's as good as the best ICBM.
A highly accurate, undetectable, uninterceptable nuclear weapon. We wouldn't even be able to tell where it came from.
And that's not all. A standard ballistic missile uses a 2-stage or a 3-stage solid fuel rocket for its propulsion system. Besides costing lots of money, safely maintaining the solid rocket fuel and readying the missile for launch requires a lot of work. But a railgun-launched nuclear warhead avoids all of those problems. And it's cheap, too.
It's the perfect nuke. A general's dream.
And the world's nightmare.
Evening peeps, how are we doing? It's good to see you, it's good to hear you. I don't hear you. I don't know why I keep saying that when I start the stream nowadays. But anyway, welcome in. Steph with the first message. What's going on? It is too hot for the green screen today. And I imagine that will be the case for the remainder of summer. But there you go. Make sure, everybody, that you are staying hydrated and staying cool. If you've got a fan, stick it on. If you're lucky enough to have one of these newfangled aircon fans that you could get. I remember when I was in the job at Allianz, my manager had one of them, and I was like, damn, dude, need one of those, actually. But you know, things are expensive. Things are, you know, available on a manager wage that they aren't on a regular worker wage, and that's just kind of that, isn't it? We got a bunch of stuff to get through. I'm gonna crack on pretty soon, but I will just remind everybody, particularly people who might be watching the VOD, as it always takes like a bit of time for audience members to roll in as soon as I go live, especially if I'm on this new time schedule that I'm trying out nowadays. I will remind everyone that there is a fundraiser for Palestine Action. There is absolutely no reason to not donate. You should totally donate. Even if it has hit the goal, the more money that they get, the better. The better, services they can pay for. The better lawyers they can hire. There's a lot of people pledging little bits of money. Every little helps, even if you donate £1. I'm pretty sure that's an option. It might not be, but it might. I don't know. But yeah, incredibly important to fight the prescription of Palestine Action as a terrorist group. They do incredible, important work. It's within the nation's best interests that they prevent our nation's complicity in genocide. Extremely funny that Keir Starmer and his, cheeky cabinet members that we're going to have a little look at now. We're actually going to cover some of this in a minute. Don't understand that Palestine Action are trying to save their freedom in not being imprisoned in The Hague. Potentially being prosecuted for assisting, aiding and abetting war crimes. So let's think about that. And also make sure that you donate. But anyway, I'm going to shove this in I'm going to put a timer on this. A timer command. So that will be Pal Action. True Group General. Welcome in Prince, welcome in Naptaker, welcome in B-Rat. It's hot everywhere. Can't donate at the minute, but I'll share it on my Twitter. Yeah, don't worry if you can't donate. It's all good. There are ways to share it. Absolutely, you're right. Did I say hi, B-Rat? I hope I said hi, B-Rat. Steph, Prince, Naptaker, B-Rat. Hi, good to see you. Please donate to Pal Action's fundraiser. It is for legal help to prevent it being prescribed as a terrorist org. There you go. It's so muggy where I am in Kent. Yeah, it's, we're quite lucky in Manchester today. The mugginess is not quite there. It's definitely too hot to have the green screen on because basically, like, I have one light on now. The light that is on this side of my face is literally just from the window. So, it's a good lighting for just this camera. Obviously, the background is garbage. Soon, maybe one day soon, I will have a background that I am, like, not ashamed of sharing. And we could just, like, have this. And I don't have to worry about doing green screen. I don't know. But, yeah, for the time being, it's far too hot for that. Yeah. Even though it's not muggy. When it's muggy, it's the worst. Because it's like, how do you even be able to live a life, Last night was like the first time in a week it was cold enough that it felt like I got any rest. Yeah. Muggy here. Oh yeah, I bet it is. Yeah, you're in New York City, right, Prince? Like, I can't imagine a muggier place. I might be wrong. I know you're on the East Coast, but yeah, it's just like if any place is gonna be muggy, it's gonna be like big urban centers, cities, towns. Particularly, yeah, you're in that area. Yeah. It's it's gonna be so like very, very insane in terms of heat. And it's madness because I'm just here like, I know. When you're in like a cycle of like changing your bed sheets, and it's like, what's the point in changing my fucking bed sheets when I'm sleeping on top of the sheets anyway? I don't have like a duvet over me when I'm sleeping at the minute because it's so hot. I got the fucking fan on, and I'm like, should I bother changing my sheets, or should I wait until it's a day that's cold, and then I know I've got cold sheets, and I'm gonna be able to have like a good night's sleep, What do? Do I just be like gross for the entirety of June and July? And probably August as well, Probably August as well. Anyway, hello Reaver Claw, welcome to the stream, how are you doing? Good to see some faces. new and old, and then old but becoming new because I haven't seen you in a while. It's great how that happens, isn't it? You don't see someone in a while and you see them again, and it's like, oh, this is like meeting you for the first time, but I already know who you are, and it's great. Right, so yeah, we're gonna go through a bunch of UK brain rot today. Oh boy, we got a whole bunch of stuff to go through. Yeah, it is just absolutely insane, as per usual. Insane British brain rot. So, no one asked or voted for this. This is from Declassified UK. Breaking: the UK is expanding its nuclear arsenal. Days after backing attacks on Iran over its nuclear program, Keir Starmer announces the RAF will deploy new aircraft carrying nuclear arms. According to Declassified UK, oh, this is actually the gov.uk press release. They are purchasing 12 new F-35A fighter jets to join NATO's dual-capable aircraft nuclear mission in a major boost for national security. How is this a major boost for national security? Mental. Absolutely mental. Our work union action is kind of drawing to an end soon. Not a great result, but after 10 months, we've got something positive. That's good. Also unrelated, but thinking about taking up bass guitar again. Sounds great to me. I'm glad you're doing well. Good stuff. Biggest strengthening of the UK's nuclear posture in a generation, complementing the UK's existing seaborne deterrent. Order will say, like, here's the thing. We have a deterrent, so why do we need another deterrent? Thank God the only thing missing in the UK is nuclear bombers and not money for heating or cooling so the elderly don't die. Yeah, it's good, isn't it? It's good. Well, that's kind of how I'm framing this today, because the biggest bit of news that everybody is talking about is that Keir Starmer is facing a rebellion in Labour over his new welfare bill. The welfare bill, which will cut thousands of pounds to disabled people's PIP payments and various other cuts to incredibly important DWP payments and funding, you know, for the unemployed, for the welfare sector, public sector, even public services. You know, amongst this, they are banging the war drum in supporting. Obviously, there is no war with Iran and Israel at the moment. There's a ceasefire at the least. Maybe the war is still happening. I don't know. The current aggression has been halted. But during the exchanging of strikes, the US had pressured the UK to get involved. Keir Starmer buckled without even trying to stand up to him, I absolutely imagine. And part of this comes directly, by the way, from Trump pressuring NATO countries to increase their defense spending. This is literally where this has come from. He said it in multiple interviews. They got to pay more. They got to do more. NATO got to up their defense spending. They got to do it. You know, all that shit. He's been doing that. And now Keir Starmer is like, 12 more nuclear jets, please. And of course, you know, the worst in consent manufacturers are trying to beef up the UK's imperial position. You've got David Lammy here with Chinese foreign minister. I forget this guy's name. But, you know, Financial Times working overtime to say China is working to undermine UK democracy. British government warns. Yeah, I'm sure they are. I'm so certain that they are. Financial Times. I'm so certain that this is the case. So let's talk about the actual rebellion and what's going on here. So we got a Guardian article to begin with. So this is the latest, most breaking news. This was published literally 3 hours ago. Keir Starmer confirms Number 10 is offering concessions to Labour welfare rebels. So there's currently an amendment to the bill from more than 120 MPs signing it. And under this pressure, Keir Starmer has basically said, okay, well, we're going to offer some concessions. in order to actually get the bill over the line. So the Prime Minister told the Commons he wanted values of fairness to underpin the legislation so the government could get this right on fixing the broken benefits system. The only thing that's broken with it, by the way, from this government's perspective, is that they're giving too much money to disabled people. That's all it is. That's literally all it is. The cabinet ministers and his chief of staff, Morgan McSweeney, deployed to win over rebels. Starmer said conversations over changes to his proposals would continue in the coming days in the run-up to the vote on Tuesday. The Guardian revealed on Wednesday that Downing Street was considering watering down changes to the eligibility rules for disability benefits, which have been significantly tightened by changes in the bill. More than 120 MPs are poised to rebel, and there remains division at the top of government over how to stem the growing anger. Concessions under consideration include changes to the points needed to be eligible for personal independence payments, a benefit paid to those in and out of work. MPs also want changes made to other proposals affecting the health top-up for universal credit, which applies to those who cannot work. So it's already like here's the thing to remember, chat. I'm in the UK benefits system at the minute. I've had a bunch of health issues. I thought that those health issues were going to continue into me trying to find work. Luckily, I'm privileged enough to get my health issues sorted while I'm going through the benefits system, and that's not the case. But what they were asking me for were completely unreasonable timelines to get a diagnosis on something that I've not been able to get diagnosed for a long time. Trying to get the doctor to get an appointment, because you have to wake up at a certain time to get an appointment. I'm talking like an ADHD diagnosis I needed a diagnosis for my fatigue, I needed a diagnosis for my abdominal pains, and I was like, I'm so fatigued, I think it's going to affect my ability to work, I don't know if I can do it. And they said, you need to get a diagnosis within 2 weeks. Completely unreasonable. And then you think about people who are less privileged than me, people like my partner, who barely gets any PIP, despite the fact that she should literally be signed off work because of her disabilities. She's not, because of the assessment that they've given her. And so they basically make her work. They don't give her full disability benefit. It's already a disgusting, horrific, horrible process to go through. It's extremely dehumanizing, extremely stressful, fraught with paperwork and bizarre hoops to jump through. And again, I do want to give The Guardian a little bit of credit here, because they have included here, unlike a lot of the discourse around this at the moment, that PIP is a benefit paid to those in and out of work. The way that this is being lauded all over the mainstream media is that PIP is something that you get when you don't work, and it's not true. PIP is something that you get if you're a disabled person, where you have extra costs because of your disability to get through life. It's stuff that you get on top of your universal credit if you're getting paid that, and if you're not getting paid universal credit, it's stuff that you get paid on top of your wage. It's like a top-up for the extra costs that you have as a disabled person to live in society. Non-emergency medicine tends to work on the order of months to years. 2 weeks is impossible for most people. Yeah, exactly. What do we got here from Nab Taker? I'm teaching myself how to crochet as I got so many clothes that I want, but I can't find online. I decided, fuck it, I'm doing it myself. That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it, for sure. After Starmer fueled further anger by dismissing the backlash as noises off, the Prime Minister took a more conciliatory tone when he addressed the Commons on his return from the NATO summit in The Hague. He should have remained there. I recognise there is a consensus across the House on the urgent need for reform of our welfare system, because British people deserve protection and dignity when they are unable to work, and support into work when they can. So make the bill better. At the moment, they're failed every single day by the broken system created by the Conservatives, which achieves neither. Yeah, and your system is going to break it even more. Conversation will continue in the coming days. We could begin making change together on Tuesday. So that's the most recent thing. We're seeing across the board. I just wanted to include this because this is evidence that this kind of thing is leading to people leaving the Labour Party. If you were a member of the Labour Party, you should have left when they started literally being racist and queerphobic, transphobic. But if you haven't already, this should absolutely be the red line. You need to be leaving the Labour Party at this point. They are not a party for working people. They are not a party for marginalised people, as they have been in the past. So this is Councillor Liam Shrivastava. Labour has lost its moral compass. We need a bold eco-socialist vision to take on the far right. Statement from me. Resignation from the Labour Party. After 10 years of membership, I'm resigning from Labour and joining the Green Party, which I will now represent on Lewisham Council. Labour is a party I have served, campaigned for and represented for several years, but the party I joined is unrecognisable from what it has become. I joined after the 2015 Tory election victory because I wanted to see a change in society. I was inspired by the leadership of Jeremy Corbyn, who articulated an anti-austerity democratic socialist politics that millions of people voted for in 2017 and 2019. A decade on, the Labour government has abandoned working people in service of wealthy donors, corporate lobbyists and private equity firms. Labour under Keir Starmer has cut winter fuel payments, rode back on net zero, tried to slash welfare for disabled people, ramped up deportations, refused to scrap the 2-child benefit cap, taking the whip from 7 MPs who took a moral stand against its shameful decision. Not content with continuing the Tory government's impunity against migrants and asylum seekers, Starmer's power-like island of strangers rhetoric legitimises the far-right politics that exploded during the racist riots last year. As a councillor in London's first borough of Sanctuary, I cannot in good conscience remain a credible representative of the Labour Party. Disappointing that he left out stuff about trans rights, but it's all correct. It's all correct stuff. So there you go. There you absolutely go. This is just going to happen more and more and more, and this is what the Labour Party needs to understand. Defiant Starmer. This was yesterday. So this is actually like something from yesterday. So we've had the update today. But let's see what it's saying today. Defiant Starmer warns Labour welfare rebels to read the room as Rayner finally backs the PM. Frustrated Keir Starmer has told Labour MPs attacking his welfare reforms. Please go away. I don't want to see the video. I don't care about a 40-second video. Speaking at the NATO summit in The Hague, Sir Keir said so many people predicted before the election that we hadn't got the politics right. We wouldn't win an election after 2019 because we lost so badly. That was a constant charge put to me at press conferences like this, and we got a landslide victory. We covered this yesterday, didn't we? We covered this yesterday. They did not get a landslide victory. A landslide victory among the lowest voter turnout of all time is not a landslide victory. Absurd. Completely absurd. Been trying to get an autism assessment. It's taken so fucking long for me to get one. I'm super lucky I managed to get one within a year. It could take up to 7 to 8 years to get one. It's going to take ages for a response. My PIP review has been taking literal months, and it's going to take around another month if it all goes to plan. Sent my PIP paperwork before Christmas, and it's still in review. Yeah, it's completely insane that it's so difficult to do that. Okay. Sky News here. Starmer's team asked Labour MPs to remove names from rebel amendment that could bring down the welfare bill. Cabinet ministers have been calling Labour rebels unhappy with the government's welfare reforms ahead of a crunch vote next week. One MP says a cabinet minister warned them defeat will trigger a leadership contest. Oh. Pray to whatever you worship to. Whatever you worship, whoever you worship, pray to it. Pray to them, chat. Oh, great goddess of the universe. Goddess. Non-binary. Omnipotent being. Or beings. Please. Trigger a leadership contest. Please. Vote for Zara Sultana. I think she's an independent anyway. I don't know who else would be a good candidate. I don't know who else it would be. Whatever I know, this government needs to stop. It needs to be ended. It needs to be stopped. That's just the end of it. If this happened, it means that a bunch of cabinet ministers would be up for re-election. trigger a leadership contest. So it would be good, basically, because it would mean that Yvette Cooper's, push to prescribe Palestine action would probably be moved back, I think. I hope that would be the case. I hope that they wouldn't just, push that through. But, inshallah, at least 123 Labour MPs have signed the public amendment. Sky News understands more names are likely to appear in the coming days. So let's have a look. See if your MP is planning to rebel against Labour's welfare bill. I bet Lucy Powell isn't. No. She is such a fucking scumbag. I swear to God. I swear to God. Look at their places. Second place in this constituency for most of these people is green. That's very interesting. Some are conservative. Not a huge margin for some of them. Green. The Greens just need a strong policy. They need to elect Zach Polanski as leader, I think, in order to get any kind of proper challenge to reform. Starmer in crisis talks over changes to welfare bill as he attempts to stave off MP's rebellion. So this was literally just over an hour ago. So this is the latest bit of news from The Independent. Sir Keir Starmer is locked in last-minute talks with Labour rebels as he paves the way for a major climb down on his planned benefits cuts. The Prime Minister is having a busy day, Downing Street said, as he desperately tries to win back the support of disgruntled backbenchers and stave off a humiliating rebellion over his flagship welfare reforms. After more than 120 of his MPs signed an amendment threatening to kill the welfare reform bill ahead of its second reading on Tuesday, the Prime Minister said conversations will continue in the coming days. While he doubled down on the need for change, saying benefits claimants have failed every single day by a broken system, he admitted that MPs want to see reform implemented with Labour values of fairness. He said on social security, I recognise there is a consensus across the House on urgent need for reform of our welfare system because the British people deserve protection and dignity when they're unable to work. This is the same stuff that we read in the other article, isn't it? Okay. Let's see what some of the most annoying people in the world are saying about this stuff. Why not, hey? You ready to get mad, chat? Oh, man. So, you'll remember this guy as the guy who said you can grow concrete when he spoke to an Insulate Britain or a Just Stop Oil environmental activist. He's also joined here by, another horrific pudding man, made of pudding, made of porridge inside him, literally sackcloth individual with gammon meat casing. Horrific. Let's see what they're going to say.
We must start really with this vote on Tuesday. Keir Starmer facing a rebellion at home, which is possibly going to be, in effect, a sort of vote of confidence in not only him, but in the
Hey, Johnny, how are you doing?
Well, he's absolutely boxed himself into a corner.
Yeah.
It looks like the Labour whips have massively overplayed it. I think, in a nutshell, the problem Starmer's got is if he, A, pulls this bill at the last minute, or B, loses it, or C, waters it down so much as to make it effectively meaningless, he's no longer really the Prime Minister.
No.
He's just some bloke who lives in Downing Street.
Right.
Because if you look at his majority on paper,
Thanks, Johnny.
it's massive. If he can't actually produce that majority in the eye lobby of the House of Commons...
Is this because my... 1 2 1 2 hang on.
When he
1 2
needs
1
it,
2.
He's not really running the country.
No. And he's not even running his
and
party, is he?
Well, and a lot of this is a completely self-inflicted
1 2
wound.
1 2.
You know,
That's
this
too
is
low.
an arrogant government.
1 2 1 2.
And, I think they've kind of, as I say, I mean, I was
1
a senior
2
whip
1
for a few
2.
years. I know a bit about that. They kind of overwhipped their backbenchers. They've gone
Is that
into
better?
knuckle dusters far too early.
Yeah.
And they've had a massive pushback, and now they're between a rock and a hard place.
Because when they did go in with the knuckle dusters, as you say, there was only about 80 rebels, and now there's over 100. And so it seems as though that didn't work. They're now going to try the soft soap tactic that Keir Starmer's going to come back and try and talk them into some kind of standing down on the rebellion.
Yeah, it's because my speakers if my speakers are too loud, it's that getting that fine balance of like, for me to be able to hear the audio, and then the audio not being loud enough to trigger the noise gate. You know, that's what it is. That's what it is. Let's go back.
We must start really with this this vote on Tuesday. Keir Starmer facing a rebellion at home, which is possibly going to be, in effect, a sort of vote of confidence in not only him but in the government, isn't it?
Well, he's absolutely boxed himself into a corner.
Yeah.
It looks like the Labour whips have massively overplayed it. I think, in a nutshell, the problem Starmer's got is if he A, pulls this bill at the last minute, or B, loses it, or C, waters it down so much as to make it effectively meaningless, he's no longer really the Prime Minister.
No.
He's just some bloke who lives in Downing Street.
Right.
Because if you look at his majority on paper, it's massive. If he can't actually produce that majority in the eye lobby of the House of Commons when he needs it, he's not really running the country.
No. And he's not even running his party, is he?
Well, and a lot of this is a completely self-inflicted wound. You know, this is an arrogant government.
Yeah.
And I think they've kind of, as I say, I mean, I was a senior whip for a few years, I know a bit about that. They kind of over-whipped their backbenchers. They've gone in with the knuckle dusters far too early.
Yeah.
And they've had a massive pushback, and now they're between a rock and a hard place.
Because when they did go in with the knuckle dusters, as you say, there was only about 80 rebels, and now there's over 100. And so it seems as though that didn't work. They're now going to try the soft soap tactic that Keir Starmer's going to come back and try and talk them into sort of, you know, some kind of standing down on the rebellion. But either way, this government has been in not quite a year. Next week it will be a year. We'll be all, you know, I won't say...
Oh, yeah, no, it's bad. Yeah, this war on waste thing. Yeah, it's so bad. Yeah, continuing the Tory policy of killing disabled people. Yeah, and it's the doublespeak, smoke and mirrors bullshit as well that really pisses me off with this Labour government, where they're basically like, oh no, you know, we hate the old Tory policy. That's why we're changing it. And it's like, yeah, but you're changing it to be worse. So now what? You know, you've already passed a bill, an assisted dying bill, which lots of people have said in an ideal world would be good, but under the current system, under the current way that the NHS works, and the way that the NHS is being sold off to private companies, etc., it's gonna just lead to abuse, and people will just be killed. It's got echoes of the do not resuscitate orders that were put on people with fucking autism and ADHD during COVID, when they were hospitalized with COVID.
Commemorating
Horrific.
Some of the things that they've done, and we were looking at what they have done, and there hasn't really been anything good. And I don't say this as a kind of, you know, totally anti-Labour person. I'd quite like the government to be quite a good government in this country, no matter who's doing it. But they can't seem to make anything work.
No, and there's no plan.
It's so horrible, yeah, that me, an anarchist communist activist who has literally done organising, and, you know, voted for what I think is right, the Vanguard Party, the Green Party in the UK. You know what my politics are. You know what my scruples are like, most of you. And I'm sat here, and these two fucking horrific gammons are just... I'm agreeing with them. I'm like, yeah, dude. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, right on, brother.
There's no strategy.
Right.
There's no moral compass by which they're aiming. It's all sound bites and slogans. And I think the public have realised that. I think Parliament's realised that. I think a lot of Labour backbenchers have realised that.
Yeah.
And that's why his authority is sort of...
This motherfucker just said bank benchers.
I think the public have realised that. I think Parliament's realised that. I think a lot of Labour backbenchers have realised that.
Yeah.
And that's why his authority is
Bang
sort of,
benchers.
seeping, you know, under the door. One of the reasons for this, there are numerous, Mike, is because it's a government utterly obsessed with human rights.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister, what? Lawyer, Lord Hermer, the Attorney General, now famously...
Here's where the bullshit starts. Yeah, you're right. Francois, this government is obsessed with human rights. They love human rights so much that they're funding a genocide. Yeah, man. They love human rights so much that they're gonna kill disabled people. Yeah, dude, you got it.
Sort of religious zealot
Smart
about human rights.
Yeah, he's not though.
Because
He's
of
not.
That, they take bizarre decisions like being prepared to pay.
This is like they can't accuse Keir Starmer of being an anti-Semitic because he loves Israel so much. Right? They can't do that. So they're like, what other lie can we say? Oh yeah, he loves human rights too much. That's why he's such a bad Prime Minister. He loves human rights too much.
£30 billion of British taxpayers' money to Mauritius to rent back a bunch of islands that belong to us in the first place, and also pursuing Northern Ireland veterans through the courts, whilst at the same time being prepared to make it easier for Jerry Adams to sue the government and thus the British taxpayer. Because
damn. So you just hate Irish people then, Mark? What you're saying is that you just hate Irish people. And veterans in Northern Ireland that killed Irish people in the same way that Zionist IOF forces kill Palestinian children. You're saying that that's fine. It's fine and good that all that happened. And they shouldn't be pursued through the courts. They should just be let off. I don't know, like, how many, like, I don't think that Kemi Badenoch's government is going to get, I don't think if there's a leadership contest and they can't do it and there's a vote of no confidence and a general election is called, I don't think the Conservatives will win. And I don't think Labour will win. It's far more likely that Reform will win. There could be Labour, Green, Liberal, Democrat coalition, maybe, depending on what the policies would be of the new Labour government. You know, if there's a leadership challenge from Starmer, to Starmer even. But this kind of rhetoric is just like, I just don't think it works with like the majority of Brits. It might work for a significant portion of the electorate. Which is like, you know, they're just sat there watching Talk TV all day and like, you know, boomers who are retired and, you know, vote at literally every single election possible. But I just think like for the majority of people, the majority of working people in this country, they are just like not gonna be bothered about any of this kind of rhetoric nonsense. It's just like, bro, we want like a living wage. Like, we want a living wage. We want affordable rents. It's the same kind of policies that got Zoran Mamdani in. The only party that is remotely interested in delivering any of those policies and not just using them as some kind of, you know, ploy to get elected, which is what Reform are doing, are the Greens. So it's interesting. I mean, who knows? Maybe even the Lib Dems. Polls are looking bad.
They're obsessed with human rights. They end up
obsessed,
tied up in these ridiculous knots, which look daft to the voting public. But
Keir Starmer's so woke.
So it's a government completely hidebound by its obsession with the Human Rights Act and the ECHR, making one mistake after another, and even their own backbenchers can see it. Hence the mood.
Right, and of course we'll come back to the SAS
yes, please,
story in a second, but that includes as well their obsession with human rights of refugees, stroke migrants, whether they're legal, illegal. You know, they keep talking about deporting people. They haven't deported anyone since last year.
What are you on about? What are you on about? What are you talking about? This guy. You know, it's funny, yeah, like, when I was growing up in the 90s, I used to see a lot of, like, caricatures of, like, a guy like this. And it would just be, like, some sludge guy. You know, like a sludge alien in, like, a suit. Just going, like, nothing's real, everything's made up. And just saying like nonsense, like people don't deserve to live and all that, and I would be like, haha, that's so funny, that would never be real. But it is. There he is. What's this guy's name again? Nick Ferrari? Or some shit? I can't remember his name, but they haven't deported anyone. It's like, bro, this Labour government has deported so many people. There are literally migrants in jail who cannot speak English, who are being held there without charge, without trial, because the government is so bad on migration and immigration. Like, what are you talking about?
They haven't deported anyone since many people decided to go back voluntarily. We learned this year from this week.
And that's the way that he's trying to manufacture consent to get support for a more far-right party. He's saying, oh, these people chose to go back voluntarily. No, they didn't, dude. What are you talking about? Asylum seekers choosing to go back to the place they're fleeing asylum from. Sorry, they're seeking the place that they're fleeing to seek asylum from. You're saying that they went back voluntarily. You are a moron.
From the Sun, that people are getting off boats in this country. And
oh yeah, here we go. We learned this week from the Sun. Opinion discarded.
We learned this year from this week from the Sun that people are getting off boats in this country, and within hours they're working as delivery drivers for food companies.
Oh no, dude. The people are getting off boats and they are doing the job that nobody in Britain, no white person wants to do. Also, saying here that the Sun says that Russia is behind the boats. Security sources say that Putin is stoking the migrant wave. Right. Do they mean Ukrainians? Is that what they mean? Are they saying Ukrainians? This country's so cooked, man. This is why my gran says that insane stuff. They're getting off boats and they're being given bikes.
Because it's that easy.
Who
to
buy?
do it. It's absolutely extraordinary.
Well, of course, and the public see this on their television screens, and they get very
no, they don't.
now.
They see it. They see it on Talk TV. The public see this on their television screens. We're doing it right now.
Before you say to me, why didn't you do something about it? We did have a plan. It was called the Rwanda plan.
Yeah.
Some people liked it, some people didn't. But it's one more plan than Labour have got. There was, they tried to.
Labour have literally been saying they're going to do the same one. Labour are saying they're gonna do the same one. What are you talking about?
Recreate something with Albania,
right?
And you had that, farcical press conference with that 6'7" Albanian, but where the PM basically says, we've got this deal, and then live on camera, the Albanian president says, well, actually, no, we don't, mate. I mean, you couldn't. It was like something out of the thick of it, right?
I know.
So there's no plan. They haven't smashed the gangs. The gangs remain resolutely unsmashed.
What gangs?
In counties, they're trying to cover our constituencies in concrete. A number of places in but one called Dollyman's Farm, I feel passionately against. They've got no compass.
What are you talking about? Dollyman's Farm? Wait. Bloor Homes, Dollyman's Farm, consultation launched for plans. Two towns could merge into one with unprecedented disruption to businesses if more than 1,000 homes are built on greenbelt land. Bloor Homes launched a consultation on plans to create up to 1,300 homes with a new neighbourhood at Dollyman's Farm in Raworth between Raleigh and Wickford. Housing needs of Basildon and Rochford. Daniel Belton, leader of Rochford Conservatives, fears the site would see Raleigh and Wickford almost become one. I don't understand what the problem with that is. I don't understand how that's a thing that you can be against. Bloor Homes has strategically walkable new neighbourhood with Homes Local Centre Primary School. Right. Is there anything in here about it being like social housing or whatever? Like, what is this like nonsense? If you're going to be opposed to this, right, then you should maybe be opposed to it because it has got nothing to do with social housing. There is no mention of social housing. Is there any mention of council housing? No, there isn't even a mention of the local council. Bloor Homes, I don't think that they're a social housing company. I think the last time I heard of them, they're just like an estate development company. New build homes for sale, Greater Manchester. Literally just doing homes for sale. You know? Yeah. They're just a developer. Just like a nonsense thing to like be mad about.
There's no plan, as I say, and the public can palpably
Also, what's it got to do with Labour?
see it.
Yeah.
He's in real...
Like, sure, like the council will have needed to have been approached for planning permission for a development, but it's like...
Been a member of parliament for 24 years. He's in real trouble.
Yeah,
now.
I said this from the moment he got in, actually, but certainly from last autumn, that there was something that was going to happen to him, whether it was some kind of independent sort of story, whether it was going to be a piece of policy that went wrong, or some act that went on inside the party. I just knew that he wasn't going to last, and it's all unravelling. The wheels are
And of
coming
course,
off
you know... And
faster than ever.
Okay. There's just the most basic take that you could ever possibly have, ever, about anything to do with the Labour Party in the UK. This is the most basic take. I had this take, right? I wasn't streaming at the time when Keir Starmer was elected, but I had this take. It is so basic. It's literally like, if you look at the way that a lot of Labour MPs, even though they went along with the exclusion of socialist members, people with left-wing attitudes in Labour, anyone who stood with Palestine, anyone who stood for Palestinian, liberation, or anything like that, even mildly critical of Israel, just get rid of them. Even if with all that, there are still people in the party who don't like Keir Starmer. If you create a party as well, full of people who are only interested in becoming a career politician with no actual values, there have been so many like new Labour MPs that like raise their head above the parapet every day, almost every day. And you're like, who is this scumbag that's like the worst person in the world? Like, why is this person being so confident to broadcast their terrible opinions? Just when you see all that, you see the way that Keir Starmer was. Like, people do not like a leader like that. Not only has he got zero charisma, like I'm talking zero charisma, but he is a very disliked person. So it's just like the most basic take of all time. Like, this is just like, this fucking guy.
And Ange just waits.
Oh, she's very much helping.
Also, again, they got like this story that's running here, this like partnership with the Sun. They're advertising the Sun. Exclusive, Rogue states, Vlad's secret dinghy plot. How to end delivery bikes. Oh, no end to delivery bike scam. Like, what are they talking about? Gangs get fake ID and transport. Plan to flood UK with illegals. It's just all lies. 3 asylum seekers convicted. Flasher, trespasser. Oh no. 3 people who were seeking asylum got convicted for crimes. It's just like, it's different when they're an asylum seeker. How many white people who were born in Britain, because they're not going to count non-white people, are they? But how many white people in Britain got convicted of crimes last week? White people born in Britain, how many of them got convicted of crimes last week? The number would be in the hundreds. Literally in the hundreds. They're like, 3 asylum seekers are convicted of a crime.
Putting him on his way, isn't she? She's not doing anything at all.
Hey, Sorka. Yeah, Keith has got catatonic riz. Catatonic riz.
You're right.
That's a great
Before I ask you about what you should have done, I know that the Labour government blocked every single thing that the Tories tried to do. And you talk about human rights, and they used the human rights lawyers. You know, where are all the human rights lawyers now when Starmer keeps talking about deporting people? They've all disappeared. You know, you wouldn't have been able to move for them if it was the Tories trying to do it.
Well, no,
What you want? What's he on about?
That's what happened.
well, actually,
Bro, literally like a minute ago, what is he trying to say here? What is he trying to say here? He literally said a minute ago, less than 4 minutes ago, he said Starmer hasn't deported anyone. And then he says this.
Rights, and they used the human rights lawyers. You know, where are all the human rights lawyers now when Starmer keeps talking about deporting people? They've all disappeared.
So which is it, dude? Literally just straight up lying. Just straight up lying.
You know, you wouldn't have...
This is boomer slop. Fucking boomer racism slop.
You wouldn't have been able to move for them if it was the Tories trying to do it.
Well, no,
so that's what happened.
Well, actually, the human rights lawyers a lot.
By the way, they're not even like fucking talking about the thing at hand. They've discussed the thing at hand, the welfare bill, for like 3 minutes, and then all of a sudden they've launched into this insane rhetoric about like Vladimir Putin's secret dinghy plot in the sun.
A lot of them are working for the people who are trying not to be deported.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of money to be made doing that.
No,
isn't
sure.
there?
But what I'm saying is that they were very vocal about what the Tories were trying to do and how cruel it was and how
5 minute hate, yeah.
Yes.
And how it was in fact putting Britain on a par with terrible, terrible, ghastly countries like Russia and Belarus and all of that. They've all gone very quiet, haven't they?
No, they haven't. What are you talking about? And also, if they have, then that completely goes against your last point, which was to say that Starmer is not deporting anyone. What are you talking about, you absolute sludge knobhead? Yeah, they're identical. They're just the same person. They grow these guys in a lab, Sorka. I don't know if you know that.
I mean, you know, this slogan that they're going to smash the gangs. Well, the
Same lab that Wes Streeting was
unsmashed.
made in. Same one that Keir Starmer was made
see
in.
on their televisions every night. So what do? They have gimmicks. They have summits. They rename units. They create, you know, channel commanders and all these sorts of things. I mean, the guy who was their channel commander, who was a respected 3-star general, you know, resigned within a few weeks of getting the job because he could see that it. Well, why he did it is ultimately down to him. But
Shall we have a look? Channel commander resigns. Literally nothing about this. What are you talking about? There is nothing about this. They're just making stuff up. Like, you try and find this stuff and you're just like, what? None of this is real.
some people think he could see it was impossible to do within the parameters that the legal constraints that were provided.
Let me see what a Shoggoth Lord looks like. Yeah. This is them. Yeah. It's like a gross eldritch being in a skin suit. 1000%. The UK doesn't have 3-star generals. It's a US thing. I don't know anything about that. You could be right. Yeah, behind each of these guys. Behind each of these guys, there's just like an eldritch being that is beyond comprehension. You may engulf a character or creature that you attack. You cannot do this when you're attacked by another character. There you go. They're all about engulfing heads. They love that shit. Hey Gobs, how you doing? Welcome in.
I did. So the public sees
Everybody go follow Gobs.
and they get angrier and angrier. Yvette Cooper, bless her, hasn't got a clue what she's doing from one day to the next. And that's why he's in real trouble. I'm not saying, you know, he'll be gone by the end of next week. I'm not making that point.
When did this come out? 5 hours ago. Yvette Cooper's main thing this week is that she's going to try and prescribe Palestine Action as a terrorist organization. And this guy is like, oh, she doesn't know what she's doing. So, like, what does he think that they shouldn't? It's just utter nonsense, isn't it? They just make everything up. Absolutely everything.
But you can tell
Hey, Ludo.
the Prime Minister is losing authority in their own party. You can smell it in the tea room in Parliament, and he's got that whiff about him now.
It's just like say anything, isn't it?
No question. And which brings us to what you mentioned earlier, SAS veterans hounded with the threat of prosecution. This is also, I think, the reason why Keir Starmer's lost his authority is because he's being seen very much as a hypocrite, because he puts out all these statements all the time about how he's standing up for our own services, how he's standing up for the security of Britain. And every single time you see a statement, you go, well, actually, that's not true. Because if you were standing up for the armed forces of this country, why are you going after members of the armed forces for something that they did dozens of years ago?
Well, look, Mike, this is something
I don't know, dude. Maybe it's because those things that they did were heinous. Maybe it's because those things that they did were like killing children, shooting innocent people, unarmed people, and saying that was the IRA, actually. That was IRA doing Israel. That was Hamas. That kid was Hamas. Terrorist baby. Maybe it's because of that, dude. I don't know.
I've campaigned on personally for years. I once raised it at Prime Minister's Questions with Theresa May about 6 years ago. And the case of a guy who was a Chelsea pensioner. Son David Griffin, I think, from...
Dude, I do not care. I do not care if he's on an iron fucking lung. I don't care if he is, if he's got no legs. I don't care. I don't care any of the things that you could like feel sorry. I don't care if all of his family died in a tragic accident. I don't give a fuck. If you were in Northern Ireland committing crimes against the Irish people, you deserve to be held to account for those crimes in the same way that IOF, Zion Nazis, also need to be held to account. Like the guy who did the Deir Yassin massacre, who is 94 years old. He's been able to live a comfortable life in so-called Israel. He literally oversaw the murder and rape of so many Palestinians. I'm sorry, but I don't care. I don't care. Chelsea pensioner, give a fuck.
Memory, he was being pursued, even though he was in the Royal Hospital at Chelsea.
Don't care.
So look,
don't care.
So here's, if I may, I know, here's the Daily Mail campaign. Good for them.
Good for them.
A bit fiddly, but let me see if I can absolutely boil it down.
Yeah.
I'm not holding out hope, bro. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. English consent manufacturing is so beyond the pale. It's literally just like get the worst guy on a screen, on a broadcast. You know, Talk TV is one of the worst. We've had a look at Talk TV in the past on the stream. And like, just say the worst stuff. Get the worst guy on to say the worst stuff with another guy who completely agrees with him. By the way, no pushback. What kind of a journalist is this guy? Is it Nick Ferrari? Is it Nick Ferrari? It's not Nick Ferrari. This is the other. It's exactly the same guy. It's literally exactly the same guy, by the way. This is just another one of these guys, another Shoggoth Lord. There is just so many types of this guy. I don't know who this guy's name is, but this guy was famous for, saying that you can grow concrete. Can I say that Morning Glory with Mike Graham is an absolutely repulsive title? Oh, is that this guy's name, Mike Graham? Oh, yeah, that's his name. Oh. Oh, man. Oh, look at these guys. Look at these guys, dude. Just look at these guys. Oh, just like get a better head. Do you know what I mean? Get a better head.
When we were in government, we brought in a thing called the Northern Ireland Troubled Legacy Act to provide...
They do get off on being repulsive. I agree, Sorka. That's exactly what it is. The entirety of the fascists' rhetoric nowadays, the strats that they've got is say the most repulsive, horrific thing while looking horrific and repulsive, and that's politics. That's how you do it. Hey, Wolfie. Yeah. We got his name. Yeah.
Protection to armed forces personnel.
Welcome to the stream.
From this endless cycle of investigation and reinvestigation, often at the behest of Sinn Féin.
Yeah.
Labour said in their manifesto they wanted to repeal that.
Shoggoth is an appropriate pejorative for these ghouls, yeah. I agree.
Act, so it will take a long while to replace it. So what they're doing is they've got what's called a remedial order, which is a procedure based from, wait for it, the Human Rights Act 1998.
Human Rights Act.
Using this remedial order, which is a sort of parliamentary surgical knife.
Yeah, he ain't boiling it down. He's not boiling it down, is he?
Take out bits of the Legacy Act, and the two key effects of that, if you're still with me, are one, it would remove a lot of the protections for our veterans. So this whole conveyor belt of inquests.
Protections from what, Mark? Protections from what?
And further inquiries would restart. And two, and here's the, equal.
You should have seen pretty. It's when you come into the chat, it says we're all communists here. So, yeah, left wing, pretty provably, yeah.
The awful bit, it would make it easier for Jerry Adams and his cronies to sue the British government and ultimately, therefore, the taxpayer.
Yeah, what for, Mark? What for? What would he be suing them for, Mark?
What self-respecting Labour MP, and there are decent...
Yeah, just going to move on from that, are you? Okay.
Labour.
Yeah, got you, pal. Got you. Yeah.
MP, well, by the way,
Don't focus on the facts. Just say whatever you want.
Debating this in Parliament this afternoon. What self-respecting Labour MP would want to walk...
Sorry, I'm on mobile. Don't worry, it's all right.
Vote for what I've just told you the government wants to do. The vote...
Yeah, sometimes that stuff doesn't come up on mobile. It's all good.
In the autumn. And then go back to their constituency. They're not going to get bought a pint down the Royal British Legion, are they?
No, they really aren't. And that is the problem. Starmer fund.
What?
I've just told you the government wants to do. The vote will be in the autumn. And then go back to their constituency. They're not going to get bought a pint down the Royal British Legion, are they?
No, they really...
Oh, Britain. Yeah, every single one of these is just the same guy. Literally the same guy. Hey Dan, how you doing? It's the three of them. Hey Beanie Gaby.
Really aren't, and that is the problem. Starmer, funnily enough, is just about to speak at the, I think it's the British Chamber.
It is a parody of Britishness. It's Brit slop. You know, remember Britpop in the 90s? Brit slop. That's what we've got now. It's Brit slop. It's just these guys just being like, boat people, coming over here, getting bikes, Keir Starmer, human rights, need to get away with war crimes. What's going on? Mental.
Chambers of Commerce Global Annual Conference. We might dip into it at some point.
Yeah. By the way, most Labour MPs don't even know that's what they're going to be asked to vote for.
No, of course.
But they will after today.
But the point is that he's
what are you talking about?
Building up our defences. He's going to be talking about recruitment. He's going to be talking about making Britain stronger. But yet, how on earth can he then do that with a straight face while pursuing these men who have served their country, put their lives on the line, been in terribly risky situations?
Yeah, maybe they shouldn't have been in those situations to begin with. Maybe that's the problem, Mike.
Facing death, shooting people to kill them when they had to because that was their job.
Oh yeah, when they had to. Okay, now he's bringing in this part of it. Yeah, shooting people when they had to. Yeah, when that kid threw a rock at that police car, you had to shoot him, didn't you, dude? You had to shoot him. That's how it goes.
They were asked to do it by the Prime Minister of the day. How can they be being chased?
Well, they're now partly being pursued under an act which came in after most of these incidents.
My sign says this bisexual stands with Palestine, Wolfie.
Until 1998. Most of the conflicts...
Identical glasses, yeah.
Most of these...
I'm kind of upset because I got some new glasses this week, and they're kind of similar to these. I think they're a bit better. I think they're a bit cooler than these, but they're basically the same. It's a bit annoying. Hey, Crypto Juice, how you doing? Yeah. Because it's their job, it's their job. Yeah, where have we heard that before?
Incidents often between the SAS and the IRA, but obviously there are others, happened decades before that law came in, right? So this is awful.
Gammon
and in
menace.
terms of recruitment and retention, what sane person would join the army today if you know you've got a government
Okay, no comment on that. Yeah, okay, dude.
that doesn't have your back, that even if you do the right
Yeah, my opinions on this bisexual stands with Palestine shirt is raising a lot of questions already answered by my opinions on this bisexual stands with Palestine shirt.
thing, and you kill a terrorist who's trying to kill you and your comrades, years later,
Like, come on, Wolfie, why don't you comment on it? Why not? No, you're not under arrest, pal.
some bunch of human rights lawyers
I'm not a cop.
aided and abetted by a Labour government are going to come after you for doing it.
Talk to us about it. Talk to us about it. You're here, you've heard the commentary so far, you've asked if it's a left-wing or a right-wing stream. You seem to be comfortable that it's a left-wing stream. I'm willing to engage with you in good faith.
Yeah.
Who in their right mind would join the army?
Yeah.
So it's not just an argument about the history of the Troubles, it's also a very hard-nosed argument about recruitment and retention in the British Army.
Yeah.
And the army on paper is meant to be 73,000 trained troops. It's under 71,000 and it's going down.
Right.
Damn, dude, maybe it's going down because being in the army is shit and you keep getting asked to kill brown babies, do spy flights over Gaza where there's a fucking genocide happening. I don't know, dude.
And if you carry on with this, what will happen is fewer people will join and more people will leave.
Yeah.
So this is really dangerous.
Or, I don't know, like, maybe what you do is you don't tell people in the armed services to do war crimes. Maybe you go, don't just shoot children. That's bad. And, if they're going to be involved in a war zone, even if they shouldn't be involved in a war zone, whatever your opinions on that are, maybe they should be held to account. Wolfie says, what would they do to us as bisexuals? Yes, I am too, but I hear they would hate us there. I mean, I don't understand why that means... Look, I'm going to play you this, because this is what I play to everybody. Now, after I was shown this by Fab Forward...
be supporting Palestinians if you're LGBT.
Right? So this is what right-wingers say all the time to us. They say, why don't you go to Gaza? Why don't you go to Gaza and see what they would do there, yeah? Why don't you go to Gaza and see what they would do to you for being queer? Well, these people did.
Be supporting Palestinians if you're LGBTQ. Seriously, they'll murder you. Don't believe me? Go there. See how they treat you. Okay, then let's go. Mission: gather and label supplies, assemble a team, arrive and distribute aid to as many Palestinian families as possible while serving as openly LGBTQ. Here's how it went. But Rain, you're an outsider, so of course it was different for you. Well, that wasn't what y'all claimed. You said Palestinians would murder me. But here, in case you aren't satisfied, our team was largely made up of local LGBTQ plus people and their allies, and they all survived. Oh, and if that's still not good enough because they were providing aid, we found Gazan Palestinian LGBTQ people at this stop, this one, and many more. They all had grown up to adulthood while living within Gaza, Palestine. This rumor is a vicious bit of propaganda meant to dehumanize the victims of one of the deadliest months of bombardment to any territory on this planet in decades, and it's a lie. Now, do LGBTQ people in Gaza, Palestine still need liberation? Yes. Do they have their full rights? No. Is it safe for them to be super open? Most of the times, no. But their struggle isn't unique to Palestinian culture. It's a struggle shared by most LGBTQ people on the planet in different but very adjacent ways. I've experienced similar treatment in Ukraine, Poland, the USA, Colombia, Mexico, Turkey, and more. LGBTQ plus liberation is a lifetime fight, one we're not unfamiliar with, but let me be clear, regardless of the progress of that fight, this is never an excuse to turn our backs on the suffering and liberation of others. Gazan Palestinian LGBTQ plus people and their allies will continue to push for their rights over time, but right now the priority is to push to have a life at all, a home at all, a land at all. Our focus should be on that call for humanitarian aid to every beating heart.
Yeah. And there it is. Look. Even if every single Palestinian, not even just in Gaza, in the entire world wanted to murder me for being queer, I would still stand against them being genocided. Right? Being anti-genocide is not conditional. Think about how many Jews were killed in the Holocaust. Think about the Jews that were killed in the Holocaust, right? And think amongst them, how many do you think hated women? How many do you think hated queers? How many do you think hated black people? How many do you think were rapists? How many do you think murdered someone? How many do you think beat their wives? How many do you think, did any kind of transgression, social transgression against any person ever? Just because they did that, did they deserve to get gassed? No. People who commit crimes do not deserve to get killed anyway. It is pretty standard that most people are against things like capital punishment. It's just wrong. It's wrong to cause more harm to someone who has harmed someone else. Sounds good to me. All lives matter to me. We're merely humans after all. Yeah. Standard. Literally standard. Exactly. I'm glad you got it. We live under a global system of white supremacy, patriarchy, queerphobia, ableism, etc. It can literally never be used as an excuse to target a specific ethnic group for genocide. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, and exactly. The genocide in Gaza is killing queer Palestinians. There are queer Palestinians. Here's a great resource. If you want to speak to people about this, check out Queering the Map. It's right there. You go on Queering the Map, and it'll give you a random place, but you can zoom out, and you can go to literally any nation, any fucking nation ever, and there are stories and stories and stories and stories and stories. If you go across North Africa here to Palestine, you will see in the Gaza Strip there are queer people who left messages. I don't know how long I will live, so I just want this to be my memory here before I die. I'm not going to leave my home, come what may. My biggest regret is not kissing this one guy. He died 2 days back. We had told how much we like each other. I was too shy to kiss last time. He died in the bombing. I think a big part of me died too, and I soon will be dead. To Eunice, I will kiss you in heaven. You know? I'm not going to read any more of that because it will make me cry. But here they are all over the West Bank. You know? Here are queer people in Jordan. Queer people in Syria. Queer people in Iraq. Oh, damn, dude. Look, queer people in Iran. Whoa. Look at that. Crazy, dude. Oh, sorry, that was Iraq. Queer people in Iran. Here. You know? Yeah, if you want to have a good cry, read this. Read Queering the Map. It's the whole reason that the Queers for Palestine movement exists. And also, you know, check out my my video on, the activism that I did trying to get Manchester Pride to drop BDS targets. It's there on my socials. It's there on my YouTube. It's called No Fuck Corporate Pride. You know, that's the reality of why, if you're a queer person, you should support Palestinians in their fight for liberation.
When the Prime Minister, puts his hand on his heart and he talks about his commitment to...
How many in China? Don't know. You can go check.
I'm not calling him a liar on national TV.
Loads.
But why is he doing this then? How does that stack up?
The thing to remember is that there's queer people literally everywhere. You're never going to, being queer is human. It's a human thing.
With all these peons of praise for the armed forces.
It really doesn't. It's ridiculous. We had a former...
BDS stands for Boycott, Divest and Sanctions. It's a movement that was started by Palestinians in the diaspora, if they've been, exiled from their home in Palestine, or potentially, I think it's been in connection with Palestinians still living in the West Bank and Gaza. Basically highlights companies who have a deep connection to not just Israel, the country, but Israel, the state apparatus that kills Palestinians, the military, military technology, facial recognition technology. Microsoft's a big one. Google's a big one. Obviously, these are quite difficult to boycott. So they're not on the main targeted boycott list at the moment, but the people who are on the main targeted boycott list, I believe, well, we can find out, are BDS guidelines. How do you find the fucking targeted list? Campaigns: boycott Microsoft, boycott Reebok, campaign categories, more campaigns, what to boycott. There you go. So priority boycott targets are the BDS movement, Chevron, Caltex, Texaco, Intel, Dell, Siemens, HP, Microsoft, Xbox, Carrefour, AXA, SodaStream, Disney, RE Max. These are a developer, by the way. RE Max, and you'll see them in the UK. Property developer, land developer. They had a fucking smart car parked outside my house for like the last fucking 10 weeks. Pressure targets of the BDS movement: Google, Amazon, Airbnb, Expedia, TiVo, Booking.com. Organic boycotts: McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Domino's, Papa John's, Pizza Hut, Burger King, Wix. It's boycott stuff, basically, or divest stuff. So there you go.
SAS commander in here who spoke very well to us. He was informed in charge of the SAS after 9/11 in Afghanistan, and he came in and he's just about to be, or he has become the chairman of We Served, which is an organisation that we very much support.
And you know about can I just mention the petition very quickly?
Sure. Yeah.
Right, okay, there's a parliamentary petition for people who want to protect Northern Ireland veterans from prosecution. It's got over 140,000 signatures.
Right.
Because it's over 100,000, we've got a debate on the 14th of July for 3 hours in Westminster about this. So thank you to all of your viewers that signed it. But the more people that carry on signing it, it's technically open till November, the more signatures on that petition, the more moral weight we will have in that debate in 3 weeks' time. So I would very much urge any of your viewers and listeners to go onto the parliamentary website. It takes seconds to do, and sign that petition. If you want to do something positive as a British citizen to defend our veterans who defended us, please.
Defended us from what, Mark? What is the problem here with the military? I'm ex-army, by the way. Well, what they're talking about specifically is UK veterans who are in Northern Ireland. When the UK was in Northern Ireland, it's still in Northern Ireland. You know, we occupy the nation of Ireland, the island of Ireland, the sovereign nation of Ireland. The British military killed, tortured, raped innocent people who were not military targets. Even if you going for military targets, you should know, as a vet, you can't rape or torture anyone. This petition that he's trying to advertise is to say that, we shouldn't hold these people account for these horrific crimes that they did while they were in service. And that's what he's talking about.
Please go online now and sign the petition.
Absolutely.
Yeah, where's the anti-petition?
Yeah, it was the guy that we had here just the other day. He was a magnificent guy, and he said, and he spoke out very well, because not a lot of people do, because of all sorts of reasons. But he said, like,
look at the state of this headline. Like, look, it's right here. They're saying SAS betrayal, campaign to protect veterans from possible murder charges. Why? Why would you want to protect veterans for breaking the law, breaking international law? Should
not be doing this. They should not be pursuing people, and they have a duty of care, quite frankly, to the people who put their lives on the line.
My colleague Sir David Davis, as everyone knows, served in the SAS years ago. He's been very instrumental in this campaign, along with myself and a few others. But it's the veterans ultimately who are making the case, but we absolutely agree with them.
Yeah.
And, David Davis has made this point that often the soldiers you're talking about had to take split-second life or death decisions, in the dark.
Yeah.
It's very easy.
Right, exactly. Every soldier should be accountable. That's just the end of it. You know what I mean? And yeah, you know, what he's saying here, every soldier has to make a split decision, sometimes, life or death decision. But if you make the wrong decision, you need to be held accountable. That's the end of it. Like, if you like, people do all kinds of things in high adrenaline environments, right? Even people who are not soldiers. Soldiers should be trained to, you know, assess those kinds of situations better. But of course, they're not going to be when they're involved in an active, you know, occupation. And they're going to do things that their general is going to be saying, that their commanding officer is going to be saying, and that the government is going to be saying. You know, they're going to be listening to the government propaganda. And at the time, during the Troubles, it was Thatcher, it was other horrific, you know, conservative right-leaning leaders, and they were constantly dehumanizing the Irish, constantly saying these people are disgusting, they're gross, they're disposable, they're rebels, they fought against us, the you know, Ireland used to be part of the UK, now it's not, that's ridiculous, and they don't know what they're doing, they don't know how to run a country, yada yada yada. And so that dehumanization turns people into fucking sickos in those situations. Hey, Comrade Chicken, what's going on?
Sit in an air-conditioned
Thoughts on cheese? It's bad.
courtroom 50
You know.
years or more later,
Tastes good, but it is bad, right?
and second guess what that soldier did or didn't do.
Exactly.
But you weren't that soldier and you weren't there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
And
You weren't there. You weren't that soldier. Shut up, man. Neither were you. Neither were you.
if we carry on, they call it lawfare now.
Yeah.
If we carry on with lawfare like this, the army will shrink and shrink, and that is not.
Mark is. If a soldier is told to do something wrong, should that soldier be to blame or the person telling him to do it? I think both of them. I think that if you get told to commit a war crime by your commanding officer, there is a responsible thing to do in that situation, which is to disobey that order.
In our interests, that does not promote our national security. It doesn't make us a strong partner of NATO. It doesn't help us support Ukraine.
Again, extremely funny. Marc Francois' whole thing here is like, more and more people would join the military if they knew they could just commit crimes. That's literally his argument. Okay, well, we're done with that now. We've got some commentary on the bill here. We spoke on LBC News today about our newly released polling results that found that the public overwhelmingly do not support the benefit cuts. It's not about concessions. The bill needs to be gone. Read our report into the impact of cuts on physical activity. Let's hear what disability... Get Yourself Active, associated with Disability Rights UK, said.
Our research also found that 60% of people want the government to explore other cost-saving measures instead of reducing disability benefits. And I think the message really clearly is it's not a matter of concessions, it's a matter with withdrawing the bill entirely. It's not something the public support. The public don't want to see tweaks around the edges of something that's going to make people sicker, make people with long-term health conditions require more NHS support, and make people less well off.
So
Yeah, no, absolutely, Dan. Like, I'm not saying that that's what the actual law is. Obviously, you've got more experience of that. There's another vet in the chat. Well, not a vet, because you never saw combat, did you? But, you know, you were in the, whatever you call it, I don't know, the reserves or whatever. Yeah, you're probably right about the law. It would probably be the one person giving the command. But I think it's most people's just opinion that it should be both of them. You know what I mean? Gotta love him trying to cut my £24 a week PIP. Yeah, well, this is it. My partner gets like £10 a week. It's a joke. People on PIP don't get enough already. You know? And constantly, there is just this horrific manufacturing of consent in the UK media to be like, people on PIP, they don't have jobs. Oh my God. They're just getting money for free. And it's like a lot of people on PIP work. A lot of people are not signed off on work. if they're on PIP, even though they should be in a lot of cases because they're too disabled to work. But the benefit system has been absolutely gutted by the Tories, so they don't appropriately assess people for being signed off work. And that's currently what Starmer's got on his hands in terms of, the rebellion. Let's see what... let's go for another news source here. We got Sky News. See what they're saying about this.
I want to start on the welfare bill,
Sure.
A kind of big topic that's been brewing over the last week or so in particular. What's the latest government position? Is this something where discussions are ongoing or concessions are about to be made?
Well, discussions are certainly ongoing. You would expect that ahead of the second reading that's due to take place.
And also, what I just want to point out is that the reason that topic in the last video was being discussed, the UK military stuff, is because Talk TV is a disgusting right-wing propaganda nightmare machine where they simply lie and get you to watch the video with clickbait. The topic of that video was supposed to be about the rebellion against Starmer, but it devolved into all the things they don't like that Starmer is doing. And one of those things that they don't like is people being accountable for doing war crimes. I personally do not like Keir Starmer, but, these people also do not like him. But you can't just be like, oh, everything he does is bad. That's what it means when you're in opposition. If that's all that you do, your integrity as a politician has to be called into question. You can't just be sat there being like, everything that the opposition does is bad and silly. Because the opposition might be doing some good stuff that you agree with, that actually you would want to see the government do to benefit your constituents. In that case, you have a cross-party agreement. If that's the case. If you don't, do I like Starmer? No, I think he's disgusting. I think he's a horrific piece of shit. I personally am an anarchist communist. I'm an organiser. I was the chair of Greater Manchester Tenants Union for 8 months. I organised with Greater Manchester Tenants Union to make people's who rent lives better, social housing, private tenants, social tenants. I've done eviction resistances. I've helped people in their disputes with their landlords. I don't think that electoral politics will save us. I think that we have to build community organisations that will essentially look after each other, where we build power, where we can look after people, we can look after each other, as well as supporting people who, have strong social safety net policies. Yeah, I said I don't as you type that. Yeah, it's fair enough. You got a bit of delay, Wolfie. That's all right. Don't worry. Wouldn't it provide even more incentive to commanders to make good calls if they know their whole group would be held responsible for a mistake too? Not my area, so correct me if I'm a silly goose. Look, I think the thing to remember, is that if the UK military standing order, or it was, I can't remember how long it was ago for you, Dan, when you were 18, so literally like fucking nearly like 20 years ago or some shit. I don't know, not 20 years ago, like fucking 12 years ago or whatever, whenever it was. If that was the standing order, act first, ask later, then that is the UK military essentially saying just do war crimes. War crimes are fine. Act first, ask later. Shoot first, ask questions later.
Place next Tuesday.
It's not conducive to a reasonable military force that is acting on the side of good in the world.
120 of our colleagues in the parliamentary party have signed that reasoned amendment. And so in that sense, we've read very carefully what that reasoned amendment says. The first thing that strikes you when you read the amendment is the degree of commonality.
Vibes-based military action, yo.
Everyone agrees welfare needs reform and that the system was broken. Everyone recognises you're trying to take people off benefit and into work because that's better for them and also better for our fiscal position. And everyone recognises that we need to protect the most vulnerable. Where there is, honestly, some disagreement at the moment is on the issue of how do you give implementation to those principles. Now, normally at a second reading, you're only voting on the principles of legislation, and then in the report stage and the committee stage, you deal with that implementation. The effect of what's happened with this reasoned amendment being tabled is that that's brought forward the discussion of how to give implementation to those principles. So given the high level of agreement on the principles, the discussions over the coming days will really be about the implementation of those principles.
Do you have enough time to do that, or is it worth delaying the bill a little bit?
I think we've got time. There'll be discussions that will be happening. There's discussions that have started happening, and I expect that those conversations will continue.
How are you going to have time to amend a bill where so many people are against it? The vote is supposed to be happening on Tuesday next week. It's Thursday today. You think that people over the next 4 days, 5 days, are going to be able to amend everything along with everything else that's happening, the prescription of Palestine action. There's other things that the government is doing at the minute. The police, or the crimes and sentencing bill, whatever the new anti-protest one is. How exactly do you think this is? Unless they prioritize it, even if they do prioritize it, it's going to be like, okay. They're going to use AR, yeah.
So is what's tabled in the...
This guy is a hack, by the way. Oh my God, they've not spelt billion properly. I didn't even spot that. Ministers say the reforms will save $5 billion by 2030. Hell yeah, dude. I can't wait to wait 5 years for $5 billion to be put into defense spending rather than looking after disabled people at home. Defense spending, by the way, which will be literally only put towards helping Israel and maybe trying to stand up against Russia.
Amendment going to be accepted by the government?
5 by Lions.
Is this something of trying
You're
to
right.
table your own amendment to the bill? What's going to be the process?
Didn't notice because it was expected. Anyway, what I was going to say was this fucking journalist here is a compromised pro-Zionist piece of shit. So I don't expect him to be doing any good questioning, pushing back, any actual real journalism here. We're just assessing this. It's important that we show, this kind of manufacturing of consent so that people understand how it happens. You could go home or you can speak to your friends at the pub or whatever, about this and explain to them why it's so bad. Or if you're in an organization and you are working with other people, other working class people, and they just happen to have a reactionary opinion because they watch Sky News or they watch Talk TV or whatever, you can sit down and just be like, look, these people are manufacturing your consent for us to go to war when we should be spending money on people at home. That's what's happening. That's the basic analysis. Any further sort of questions that they may have, I'm sure you'll be able to answer.
Your own amendment to the bill? What's going to be the process?
Well, certainly the principles that are set out in the reasoned amendment, as I say, there's a high degree of commonality about with the government. So we can accept those principles because we share them. Equally, it's right to recognise these issues touch very deeply the Labour Party's sense of itself and the
it's terrible, Wolfie. Same.
Of members of Parliament. What I see is everyone trying to do their job well. Ministers trying to
be right, yeah.
Open with Parliament as to the ambitions that we have. Members of Parliament being clear as to their responsibility to scrutinise this legislation and get it right. And that's the character of the conversation that's taking place between ministers and members of Parliament in the hours and days ahead.
I've no doubt everyone's trying to do their job well, but clearly someone's dropped the ball here to lead to a position where 120 of your own MPs, including all the committee chairs within, or 11 of the committee chairs. Is there pressure on Morgan McSweeney?
Listen, I'm much less interested in the gossip about SW1 than whether this legislation works on the streets, in the towns, in the communities right across the country. And my honest judgment, many of my friends have signed that amendment, friends and colleagues of long standing in the House of Commons, is that their primary motivation is to do well by their constituents, to get this legislation right. And there are some honest disagreements there as to whether this legislation yet is what they are looking for and whether there's ways that it can be improved. But I think it's to diminish the commitment of those Labour MPs to their constituents and, frankly, to seeing a difficult and challenging issue like welfare reform be got right by the government, to diminish it to some of the gossip and headlines that are inevitably around an issue like this. I accept that. But I think their motivations actually are about the legislation, the policy, and getting the policy right.
Well, with all due respect, it might not interest you, but it interests me. And
Yeah, of course it does, you scum sucking suit loser piece of shit, fucking 50 fucking £1,000 a year or whatever the fuck you're on, cunt.
You know, what I'm hearing
might not interest you, but it interests me. Also, Israel are so good.
As you didn't suggest there's not that there's pressure growing on Morgan McSweeney, which I think is striking.
Well, you're entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to mine. The fact is, the Prime Minister. Just let me finish the point. The Prime Minister is in charge of Downing Street. You wouldn't reasonably expect me to be passing judgment.
If you hate Starmer, who would you prefer as Prime Minister? Well, first of all, Corbyn, but that's not going to happen. Second of all, someone like Rebecca. What's her name? I can never remember her name. Whenever I think of a name, I think Rebecca Long Bailey would have been great. Just, you know, look, it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter who is Prime Minister. What matters is policy, and what matters is a strong party that actually agrees on policy and isn't compromised by foreign lobbying, you know? For example, Israel. Like, the problem with the current Labour Party is that they are all completely compromised by the Labour Friends of Israel lobby group, which literally gives £20,000 to David Lammy, or is £20,000 for Keir Starmer, £20,000 for Keir Starmer, £50,000 for David Lammy, and £200,000 for Yvette Cooper. I don't even know what a socialist is. Look, a socialist is, you know, someone who believes that social safety net policies like public social housing, you know, a living wage, you know, taxing billionaires, taxing people who have like an immense amount of wealth, putting that money into public services, you know, redistributing that wealth essentially. You know, it's a type of government and a type of politics that focuses on people rather than profit. It's as simple as that. You know, sorry, we're just going to be hearing sirens for a bit. Okay.
On who's working in the Sky News team this morning. It's for the Prime Minister to make his judgments. The fact is, that team delivered us an historic victory only last July against expectations. What Keir Starmer did when he became leader of the Labour Party was what, over 18 years, Neil Kinnock, John Smith and Tony Blair managed. He managed it in 4 years against all expectations with the team in Downing Street. So I have deep respect for what was achieved. I also know that the task of government...
No, I appreciate you listening, Wolfie.
...is hard. There are always going to be people...
It's good when people come here to learn.
...with strong opinions on all sides of an issue like welfare reform. So I think what's much less interesting than how we got here or who's involved is whether we get the policy right. And that's the task that we're focused on in the coming days.
Well, listen, I totally accept all of that, but, you know, implicit in my question, or brings me to the next one, is if somebody doesn't take the blame for what has been an error...
And historic.
...party to
it's good, isn't it?
This level of rebellion, then it's on the Prime Minister for not managing internal party politics.
Honestly,
we all can have disagreements, but you could have had these discussions with your colleagues weeks or
he
months
is right
ago, so it didn't lead to a point where
about
120 of your MPs have publicly said we do not.
He is right that Keir Starmer has completely mismanaged the party, but again, that comes down to his politics of like bringing the big boys back in charge, which essentially just means getting rid of anyone who supports any kind of social safety net policy. Just get rid of him. Any socialist in the party, any left-wing person, anyone who stands up for anti-racism, anyone who stands up for anti-fascism, anti-queerphobia, just get rid of him. Just literally just get rid of him.
Not agree with our government on this central policy.
So,
right, if you're going to rule like that, you're going to inspire rebellion. That's how it works.
Part of Tony Blair's government and Gordon Brown's government, I will remember what was a large rebellion very early after the 1997 landslide over the issue of lone parent benefits. What happened was a significant rebellion. There were screaming headlines. People were saying lessons must be learned. And what followed that rebellion was not just the largest fall in child poverty that we'd seen in generations, the largest fall in pensioner poverty, but a Labour government that had the capacity to come together and deliver for the people of the United Kingdom.
Wait, what? What is he? Wait, what did he just say? Oh, the 1997 thing, right? Okay, I was gonna say, like, what are you talking about? You know, this is what I was talking about in a couple of streams ago when Alejandro was talking about, like, damn, the Labour and the Tories are just exactly the same nowadays, and I was talking about how it didn't used to be like that, and you know, even under Blair's government, which, you know, Tony Blair's a fucking war criminal, literally. Actively, got involved in Iraq. 1 million Iraqi children dead. Well, not children. 1 million Iraqis dead. At the behest of the United States, the imperialist empire. But he had strong social policies that were effective. Not the kind of stuff that we would like, because he was a very neoliberal Labour Party leader. It was New Labour. So it wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. If we're thinking about past Labour governments like Harold Wilson, Clement Attlee, this is the thing. Like nowadays, like where's the social policy? They just keep attacking working people again and again and again, and it's so ironic that Keir Starmer invoked Enoch Powell in his Rivers of Blood style speech. Because Enoch Powell actually only ever got one thing right in his life, which was that the Labour Party would one day cease to represent working people. He was right about that. And we're at that point now with Keir Starmer.
The capacity to come together and deliver for the people of the United Kingdom. I have every confidence that in time there will be a sense of proportionality and scale that's perhaps missing in some of the newspaper headlines this morning. Because actually,
thanks for the follow.
Doing its job, it's the government doing its job for the people, and we're going to move forward together.
Well, with all due respect, you're implicitly suggesting that I'm inexperienced, and I'm afraid anyone can look at this.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm just offering the perspective of having gone through a previous rebellion where people said this was, if you like, of seismic consequence for the future of the Prime Minister, that Tony Blair had misjudged the issue. And the reality was that Tony Blair went on to be an extraordinarily successful Prime Minister in the course.
Oh, this is okay. This is just like a misrepresentation now. This is a misrepresentation. No one should be saying that Tony Blair was an extraordinary prime minister, extraordinary successful prime minister, extraordinarily successful in that he was prime minister for a long period of time, from 1997 to 2006 or whenever it was, almost 10 years, right? Maybe that, but you can't just be sat there being like, he was an extraordinarily successful prime minister for the people of the UK. He absolutely, provably wasn't. Like, come on. What you're doing is you're trying to apply a current issue to a past issue and saying, well, back then it was fine. When Tony Blair, again, even though had problems and got things, did a lot of things wrong, was doing some things right, like the social reforms, and didn't destroy his party's left-wing base, didn't completely gut the left-wing socialist part of his base, of his MPs, and, had an interesting cabinet, but also, had a lot of MPs who were fighting for the government to do the right thing. It's only because of that those things were pushed for, that what he's talking about. But those people supported him because he didn't, do the kind of sweeping Stalin-esque purges that Keir Starmer's done. And I wouldn't even, give him the benefit of calling him Stalin, because fucking even Stalin was far better on many social policy than fucking Keir Starmer.
Of that parliament and in the subsequent years. So I think sometimes that historical perspective is useful.
120 MPs, including 11 committee chairs, is significant whichever way you try and frame this. And let's see what the Prime Minister meets when he comes home from NATO. And just to follow up on this...
So this is not from today, then?
Tony Blair ever faced, a year into his government, what you face today with a new YouGov MRP poll.
Yeah, he's right.
Suggests your seats in Parliament, if an election was held today...
He's right. He is right about this.
...would half to 178. Did Tony Blair face that? I'm a bit inexperienced. Can you clarify for me?
He did.
This guy's such a dickhead.
Didn't face the multi-party politics that is a feature of politics more than 20 years after his time in office. But did we face challenging headlines?
Right, again, you know, and what you're saying again is that you're literally saying, oh, well, you know, that was 20 years ago. When you could literally say the same thing, that was 20 years ago, about what you said.
And difficult political issues, 100%. The fact is, what we read in that MRP poll is a snapshot of public opinion less than a year, just under a year, into a Labour government that has a mandate for 5 years. So should we take it seriously? Yes, we absolutely should. As a snapshot of opinion today, but not necessarily a good guide to where we will be at the time of the general election. The greatest antidote to reform is an effective Labour government.
Right, well, be an effective fucking government then. Holy shit. Be an effective Labour government.
We have time. We have the capacity to govern well over the coming 4 years. And when I read those headlines,
no, you don't.
What it teaches me is that there is undoubtedly a hunger for change in the country.
Hey, Lee Artemis, how you doing?
In July.
It was 20 years ago when it disagrees with my point, but it's very relevant to today when it agrees. Yeah, exactly. Mandate for 5 years. Yeah, they've literally gone back on so much of the manifesto. Yeah, it's such a joke. It is such a joke.
It's why we feel the pressure.
What's this fucking scumbag's name? The Trade Policy Minister, Douglas Alexander?
Of public opinion, but it's why we've already delivered, for example, lower waiting lists for the first time since 2008. It's why we've delivered a rise in the national minimum wage. It's why we are busting our tails to deliver trade deals, growth and jobs for people in the United Kingdom. So we take that as an instruction to make sure that we...
Alexander has been a vocal critic of anti-Semitism within the Labour Party and is a supporting member of one of the oldest socialist societies affiliated to the party, the Jewish Labour Movement. In 2011, Alexander was the first to publicly condemn Paul Flynn, the Labour MP for Newport West, for his comments regarding the religion of Britain's first Jewish ambassador to Israel. Alexander, who at the time was serving as Labour's shadow foreign secretary, said in response to Flynn's comments about Ambassador Matthew Gould, the faith of any British diplomat is irrelevant to their capability to do the job. Sure, I mean, if the comments were like, oh, he's Jewish, then that's shit and bad. What is this? You can never tell. Jewish Labour Movement, is this good? Is it bad? Oh, the Jewish Labour Movement known as Pole Zion. A member of the Progressive Coalition of Avoda Meretz Azenio Mini within the World Zionist Organization. Oh my god. Affiliated with the Board of Deputies of British Jews, which literally removed 22 anti-Zionist members for daring to criticize Israel's genocide in Gaza. The values of the JLM are centered around a connection between socialism, the Labour Party, and socialist Zionism. Yeah, man. Yeah, this fucking scumbag. This fucking scumbag.
We move further and faster in relation to the change that we fully...
Further, faster, harder.
Convenient to use...
more Palestinian children dead, faster. More asylum seekers killed. More disabled people killed, faster.
Your argument. I think the final question, I really want to get onto your trade stuff. On this, unequivocally, the government is saying the vote will go ahead on Tuesday?
Deputy Prime Minister made that clear yesterday.
Okay, very interesting. So that's...
You know when someone like makes a face like this, that they're resolute in their beliefs. This is what some people describe as the chip shop shut face. Yeah. You've had to come home and tell the kids that the chip shop was shut.
It's definitely going ahead then.
Well, as I say, the Deputy Prime Minister at the dispatch box in the House of Commons said the vote would happen.
Let's talk about what you are here to announce on the trade policy, which I find really interesting. And this is to try and follow up what's already been agreed for some goods trade on services as well. Is that the central point?
So we've done 3 trade deals in the last couple of months. We've done the deal with the United States, the deal with the European Union, and the deal with India. What we set out today is a broader strategic framework that says, what are our ambitions going forward? You're right to recognise there's a big feature on services because we're an 81% services-based economy and there's a global services boom happening at the moment, so that's a big opportunity.
Bro, we are an 81% services-based economy. Are you joking me? You know, this is why the UK has such an interest in foreign policy. This is why the UK has such a absolute need to support any kind of evil empire in its agenda, because we don't produce anything. There's nothing that we produce anymore. We have exported all of our labor to the global south, to the imperial periphery, and the result of that is that more colonialism needs to happen so that people who run those businesses who live in the UK can make loads and loads of money. And it's just 81% service economy. 81% of our economy is services. This is nuts. It's nuts. Hey Husker, how are you doing?
For British workers and for British jobs. What we've heard from the business community is many of the barriers they want to be taken down are not actually at the border, tariffs, but beyond the border. So we've got a whole series of measures in this strategy setting out how we're going to do that. Essentially quicker, sharper, more agile deals. At the same time, we're in a world where barriers are going up rather than coming down. It's more protection.
Exactly, Goblin Hugger. Not a very stable economy whatsoever.
So we're also looking at whether we have the right trade defences to protect British business and British jobs from anti-competitive behaviour. And we've got new measures that we're setting out today in the strategy. And finally, of course, we're looking to
I would be so interested to hear what strategies they have for anti-competitive, hostile takeovers of companies. Like, there are already companies in the UK that are monopolies, essentially. Like, a pure service economy is an incredibly obvious problem, yeah. As soon as you have a disagreement with another country that provides your goods, game over. You're fucked. How is 20% of production going to serve an entire country, 60 million people? What are you on about?
Provide better support for British business. We lost a whole number of businesses from the exporting business at the time of Brexit. We're determined to get them back.
And this is why the UK needs to engage. We're determined to get the trade back from the EU. They have to be part of, we have to be part of a global trade movement, a huge trade bloc that helps in terms of, that has agreements that means that if anything goes wrong, we're guaranteed trade, we're guaranteed produce. If we don't produce stuff on a global scale, otherwise, again, there'll be so many problems. This is why, if we're thinking in the long scheme of things, the main thing that Brits should be thinking about doing is supporting community gardens. Yeah, make a community garden in your local area. Try and find a plot of land where you can just start digging, make a community garden, grow fruit and veg for your local neighborhood, and hopefully you won't have to rely on the shops when everything goes to shit. All superstructure, no base, a real fail-son economy, as Marx would undoubtedly put it, yeah. Wasn't Thatcher's government mostly services? Well, it was under Thatcher's government that neoliberalism, really started to drive home the, exporting of jobs to other countries, imperial periphery countries like China and, Africa, basically hyperfixating on the colonialist extraction that had been happening in the previous 100 to 200 years. Yeah. Lettuce, potatoes, and beets, super easy. Hell yeah. I wonder if anyone's done a detailed analysis of Cuba's urban agriculture and could probably learn a lot of good lessons from them. I think we watched a video on it a while ago. Cuba. I love Cuba. I love that shit. Sustainable urban farming in Cuba. Cuba's urban farming revolution. This was 2014. In 2014, the Cuban government identified hundreds of large state-sponsored urban farms. You know, it's crazy. Yeah, if you get an allotment or a standard allotment plot, you could grow a lot of veg. Yeah. Some allotments have rules on how much veg you can produce, but generally speaking, it's if you're doing it on an insane, unsustainable level, essentially. Which is why if you get an allotment, you should consider making a permaculture garden. So having, you know, plants that benefit each other, plants and fungi that benefit each other. Yeah.
To selling their goods and services to the world.
What I'm unclear on with this strategy is whether it leads domestically to more or less regulation. Is this a case of saying we know overseas our companies face regulation and we want to work to get that removed by foreign competitors? Or is it the other way around, which is to say we need to help you be competitive on the world stage, and if China's got lower regulation, we need to match it?
So we've listened to business who have told us that there are lots of barriers internationally that inhibit British business exporting more. So a very practical example.
We've identified a problem, and instead of solving it by paying people who work in production jobs in the UK more, instead the solution is to fight against countries' regulations that are stopping them from exporting in a completely unsustainable and harmful to the environment way. We exported all of our labor to the Imperial South, and now those countries are sick of it, and they're telling us to stop being so harmful to their country, you know, polluting their rivers. Thinking about Shell. He's talking about like Shell here. Shell, who just like lost a court case in the Supreme Court in the UK saying that they are responsible for completely polluting and ruining the Niger Delta. You know?
Example, if you're selling pharmaceuticals from the UK, we've got world-class pharmaceutical companies. There are regulatory barriers in Egypt that make it difficult for you to sell pharmaceuticals into Egypt. So we will be working with regulators.
Yeah, bro, because probably in Egypt, they have a better eye on like how much medicine should cost. Maybe they're making their own medicine and using that in their healthcare system because they're fucking smart.
With policy.
I'm not saying that Sisi is like a good guy or that his, you know, puppet vassal state government is good and great or anything like that, but it is probably the case that they're being smart and producing their own medicine. I think that literally every country should try, at the very least, to produce their own medicine.
Makers in Egypt and countries like that to make sure that where there are barriers that can be torn down to secure new markets and new opportunities for British.
Think about how insane that is. UK pharmaceutical company, we're going to start operating in Egypt so that we can make it in Egypt because it's cheap to make it in Egypt, and then we're going to send it back to the UK. That's just colonialism. It's just imperialism, colonialism, economic colonialism.
We're grasping them for those companies.
Just on the topic of pharmaceuticals, since you mentioned it, where are we on the US pharmaceutical deal?
So they've still got their 232 investigation, they technically call it, underway. We're already in dialogue with the Americans. We've seen progress in relation to autos. We've seen progress in relation to aeronautics. But we're working hard in relation to steel. We're talking in relation to pharmaceuticals. But it's like any negotiation.
They're struggling with steel because, again, they won't pay. You know, the Port Talbot steel workers have been on strike so many times over the last 5 years. They won't pay their steel workers a fair wage.
Relying on the Americans as well as the UK, but we're already...
I don't know how that affects the negotiations. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Maybe that's why they're finding it difficult to make a deal. I doubt that Trump is going to be like, pay your steel workers a fair wage. I don't think he's going to have an issue with that, but maybe they're finding it difficult because of the fact that the workers are always on strike.
Only government in the world to have done a deal with the Trump administration. We've delivered that, as you saw.
That's not true. That's not true. What are you on about? What are you on about?
The only government in the world to have done a deal with the Trump administration.
Oh my God, you're chatting rubbish. You are chatting rubbish. He knows it as well. Look at his face.
Delivered that, as you saw from the Prime Minister in Alberta already, but there's more work to do.
Minister, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Good to see you. Douglas Alexander.
Minister, thank you for joining us in Lying this morning. All right, let's take a look at what Starmer was saying in the House of Commons. This was 3 hours ago.
We're rebuilding them and shaping them. After years of fraying alliances, we're rebuilding them and shaping them to serve the British people. Focused every ounce of our global influence to deliver for working people, to deliver it in the national interest.
What are you talking about?
to the House.
This fucking horrific liar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I thank the Prime Minister for advance sight of his statement. He has evaded Prime Minister's questions for 2 weeks. Yeah. Only to come back here to tell us what we already heard on the news. This is a weak statement from a weak Prime Minister, which can be characterized in 2 words: noises off. In his statement, the Prime Minister said, "We urge Iran and Israel to honor the ceasefire." He said, "We are using every diplomatic lever to support this effort." What diplomatic levers? Are they the same levers he's using with his backbench rebels? Is he just asking them to please play nice? Let's be honest, Mr. Speaker. Nobody cares what this Prime Minister...
Listen, I'm not lying, yeah. I think Kemi Badenoch is a piece of shit. She's a horrible person. She's a disgusting politician in the same way that Keir Starmer is, and Angela Rayner, and every fucking loser, horrific, sycophant to Israel politician ever. She's right on this. And I think that Kemi Badenoch being so poor in terms of a leadership choice for the Conservative Party, the fact that she is making him look like this is just hilarious. Like, she's fucking cumstering and dumpstering him. He's got no idea how to respond to this because it's like correct. Chat, we have a visitor. Wait, is it not working? Oh, it's not plugged in. Hold up. There you go. Oh ho ho. There he is. There he is. Hey Val. Oh. Yeah, that's it. Whoa! What are you doing?
thinks, and why should they, when he doesn't even know what he thinks, and clearly no one cares what he thinks because he was not involved. We used
I'll bring him back when he's done with that.
strategic player on the global stage, Mr. Speaker, advancing Britain's interests with confidence.
Order. You may not wish to hear the Leader of the Opposition, I do. Can I just say, it doesn't do anybody good in this chamber to try and shout somebody down who's speaking.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. They can shout as much as they like, but we all know the truth. We used to be a strategic player on the global stage, advancing Britain's interests with confidence, and now we are on the sidelines. Over the last few weeks, historic events unfolded in the Middle East, and at every stage, Britain has been out of step with the US and out of the loop with Israel. Last week, the Prime Minister came back from the G7, insisting that there was nothing that President Trump said that would indicate he was about to get involved in this conflict. Days later, the US launched its attack on Iran's nuclear facility.
Okay, this is easy. This is a cheap shot. You know, again, just to clarify, no love for Starmer, no love for Kemi Badenoch. But honestly, this is a cheap shot. Trump was literally like this with a gun going, nobody knows what I'm gonna do. You know? Out of line with Israel, what, you haven't been murdering as many people. That's what she's saying. She's criticizing him for not murdering more people. For not like getting involved. Kemi Badenoch is like, I would have fucking nuked Iran straight away. I would have nuked Iran within a minute, bro. Within a minute. We used to be a global player.
He had no idea what was going on. The week before, Israel launched an attack on Iran, and it became apparent that the UK was not even informed about the attack in advance, despite us having been involved in previous preventative action. How is this standing up on the world stage? On Tuesday, the Foreign Secretary, a lawyer, repeatedly could not say whether the US strikes against Iran's nuclear facilities were legal. This is a government that doesn't know what it's doing.
What is she? What? Hold up a second. Like, what is your line, lady? Are you saying that, like, it's bad? That we didn't condemn it for it being illegal? Or are you saying that we should have bombed them? Like, what are you saying?
Let me make the Conservative position clear, Mr. Speaker. Iran has been a direct threat to the UK for years, plotting terrorism on British soil. It must not get to nuclear weapons. And this is a time for Europe to step up, and the UK should be leading. Instead, we have an Attorney General using international law to constrain and restrict the UK while the Prime Minister hovers indecisively on the sidelines.
Oh my God, dude.
What we need is a leader. Instead, we have 3 lawyers. Last week, I wrote to the Prime Minister about how this conflict has underscored the folly of the government's £30 billion Chagos surrender.
She is actually rubbish, by the way. Like, she got him on that first bit, but this next bit, like, there is no appetite amongst the UK populace to support Israel anymore. Like, this is a room of clowns. A room of complete and utter clowns. You know, none of the people in this room, other than Corbs, other than the other independent MPs, like Zara Sultana, other than the Green MPs, completely understand just how insane this is. Like, they just have no idea. Room of clowns, it's a circus. Yeah, is terrorist Iran in the room with us right now, Kemi? Yeah. Like, what terror attacks is she talking about that Iran have funded? What is she on about?
Surrender deal. The Diego Garcia base is of obvious strategic importance for conflicts in the Middle East. They're shaking their heads. They don't understand.
Hey, Doggo Duck. No one cares about the big Chungus Islands. I mean, this is the thing, right? Like, no fucking person in the UK is concerned about the fact that we don't have the Chagos Islands anymore. It's good that people of the Chagos Islands don't have UK military bases on them anymore, or whatever it was that happened. People who live in a sovereign nation should have a self-determination and a right to govern their own sovereign nation. You know, and that's the end of it. Like, you know, it's just such a dumb talking point.
It was used extensively.
Also, welcome to the stream, Doggo Duck. Yeah, the Chagos Islands. I think they're... let's have a look. Chagos. Iran has been hours away from developing nukes for the last 20 years. Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that. Their class is showing because I don't own any islands or military bases. Right, exactly. Starmer's Chagos deal faces new legal challenge. Wait. Chagos Islands deal must be ratified to secure Diego Garcia. Chagos surrender. Last-ditch High Court challenge. Oh my God. I didn't even find out where they were, sorry. The big Chungus Islands. They're near Madagascar. Wait, how is this... How is this strategic for the Middle East? What do they mean? How is an island this far away from the Middle East strategic? She's chatting rubbish.
Diego Garcia was used extensively during the war in Afghanistan, including by the United States. And at Prime Minister's questions, the Prime Minister said that this Chagos surrender had been opposed by our adversaries, Russia, China, and Iran. Since then, it has been widely reported that China have offered massive congratulations on the deal and conveyed that it fully supports Mauritius. So can the Prime Minister now admit that he was incorrect to state on the floor of this House that China opposes the Chagos deal? And can he confirm if he still views China as an adversary? Under the terms of his deal, if the US were to launch an attack from the military...
China bad, China evil, he's wrong about China. I mean, like, look, here's the annoying thing. Keir Starmer is such a flip-flopping loser, is that he's, like, feeling pure pressed about the fact that she's getting quite a lot of stuff right about the fact that he doesn't know what he's doing. That's the main focus of her argument, and she's right about that, but it's obviously peppered with this, like, conservative shit. Conservative, horrific shit. You know, warmongering, saber-rattling bullshit.
Base on Diego Garcia, we would have to inform the Chinese allied Mauritius government. Will he abandon the deeply flawed surrender deal? Because if not, when will he introduce the legislation...
Why is it deeply flawed, Kemi?
...setting out the details of the Chagos surrender so Parliament can consider and debate it?
Isn't it even just like not good? You know? Yeah, what is China going to do to Britain? Sell us really good, cheap electric vehicles, right?
We welcome the announcement that the UK will be buying F-35A fighter jets, and I'm pleased that the Labour Party has now moved on from its previous position where it did not support NATO and advocated against the nuclear deterrent. They pretend...
It's really good that Jeremy Corbyn doesn't exist anymore, but it's still not good enough. We need to bomb more fucking people.
They pretend that it never happened. We have the receipts. Conservatives are proud of exceeding the NATO baseline of 2% of GDP on defence, and we led NATO in getting there. But the government's aspiration to get spending on national security to 5% is just hope. The reality is Labour does not have a plan to get to 3%. It is all smoke and mirrors. And we do not know what the government will spend this extra 1.5% component on. So can the Prime Minister confirm whether this is money that we are already spending or whether there will be any new money? Because so long as this plan remains unfunded, these are just words. Instead of using smoke and mirrors to inflate defence spending, Labour should heed our call to hit 3% by the end of this Parliament with a fully funded plan to get there. You look at the money they claim they're going to save with their welfare bill. 5 billion is nowhere near the tens, if not hundreds of billions that we're going to need to find to meet this defence spending target. And this is the problem, Mr. Speaker.
Damn, sounds to me like we should just lose the defence spending target. Sounds to me like the defence spending target is a load of shit that doesn't benefit the British public and in fact is actively making people's lives worse.
It is one thing to talk about spending money on planes and infrastructure, making announcements about reviews, but it is another to be clear whether...
Oh, you don't understand, Cryptojuice. We gotta defend ourselves against Iran, which is so far away from us that there's just simply no way that they could potentially ever cause any actual harm to our sovereign nation. Yeah, France is going to invade any minute now, you see. Any minute now. If you ask Kemi Badenoch, she'd twist that into, well, France is already invading, actually, because they're sending the boat people over. I fucking hate everyone in this room.
the money comes from and how...
I hate everyone on this front bench so much with such a passion. You fucking scum, traitor, turncoat. You useless piece of shit, Labour Friends of Israel, Zionist cunt. You cunt, fucking prick, bollock, twat. I can't stand any of them.
It will be spent efficiently to secure the defence of our nation. They can mutter all they like. We all know that they are terrified of doing anything that is even remotely difficult. Mr. Speaker, it is crucial that there is a clear, united front in full support of Ukraine which secures peace on their terms. The stakes could not be higher. We need the government to be leveraging British influence in every way it can for Ukraine. So can he tell us whether he pushed for clear language in the NATO communique about Russia being the aggressor in this conflict? And can he update us on the UK's current position on Ukraine's accession to NATO, given the absence of detail in this year's communique? We must ensure our leading role continues, but this requires strong leadership and an ability to influence. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, the Prime Minister may have finally returned to this House after a fortnight away, but in truth...
Muffinman88, first time caught a stream, big fan of your YouTube. Hope your job search went well, going well. Thanks very much. Good to see you. Job search is going terrible, and maybe it's time that I use this opportunity to remind people that currently this is my only form of income other than the horrific UK benefits system, which we've been criticising a lot today. So please consider doing one of these many options. Please consider either donating to my PayPal via the sub off Twitch link that has just gone into the chat. You could send money directly to me. It means 100% of the money goes directly to me. You could subscribe on Twitch here. Half of the money that you spend on that will come to me eventually. You could also go to my Patreon and subscribe there. There are various different tiers with various different benefits that you can use to support support me. Or if you can't financially support me, please consider doing a couple of things. Going to the Go Live tweet or the Go Live post on Blue Sky or Twitter, posting that, retweeting that, liking it, boosting it up in the algorithm so that more people see it, so more people are invested in the stream, etc., etc. And also, please consider going at the top of the YouTube chat. This may not be the case if you're on mobile, so I am gonna just find that for you as well. There is a link there to my new videos. That are on TikTok and Instagram. Go and like them, comment on them, etc., etc. That will help boost those in the algorithm, and that means that they will get pushed up and more people will be advertised of my stream, etc., etc. How do I do this? Oh yeah, there you go. There you go. Hey, PM Triox, say the stream title is true. It's not, unfortunately. It could be. I don't know. It could be. Very possible. But we will see.
He is all at sea. Irrelevant on the world stage, impotent in the face of rising illegal immigration, and now with 126 of his own MPs all openly undermining his authority, his government is incapable of making even the smallest changes to bring down the cost of our ever...
Oh, Kemi, you're not gonna make it. I'm sorry, love. There ain't no way. If a general election is called and it passes, there just isn't any way you're getting in government. I'm sorry, love. It ain't happening. I don't know why I'm so invested. You're invested because of solidarity. That's what it is. You're invested in the same way that I am invested in, anything that helps working class people and you where you are. That's why.
Expanding welfare bill. There is no way they're going to be able to pay for our defense. This is a government.
We support each other globally. Legal advice, that's what solidarity truly is, isn't it?
Backbenchers and paralysed by the fear of being found out for having no real vision for this country.
Prime Minister. Can I say to those who were late in, please don't stand. Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we live in more volatile times.
To those who were late in, please don't stand. Wait, what? What's that? What did he mean by that? These parliament rules escape me all the fucking time, honestly.
That many of us can remember. With conflicts in many parts of the world that are evolving in a very fast and dangerous way. There's never been a more important time to work with our allies.
Harry Potter-ass government.
And to be absolutely serious in our response. That response was unserious. Unserious. To suggest at a time like this that the Prime Minister attending the G7 summit and the NATO summit is avoiding PMQs is unserious.
I mean, that's the reason that Kemi Badenoch is not going to win. She's a poor leadership choice for the Conservatives because she cannot own these mad accusations that she throws at Keir Starmer in the same way that Boris Johnson did or Dave Cameron did, right? And in the same way that she's trying to latch on to the disgusting politics that has invaded far right rhetoric at the moment. She's trying to tack on so much, of the horrific way that right wingers communicate to people, and just communicate their views in general, and it's just not what. Works anymore. Even when Labour does it, Labour does it too, right? Labour does the same thing, literally invoking Enoch Powell. Keir is the kid who picks his nose at the front of the class. Is true, yeah. He wants serious. I could Fed post to his dumb face and watch as he shrinks in sheer terror.
What happened at NATO yesterday was historic. It was very important at a time like this that NATO showed unity and strength with a commitment.
It wasn't historic. What is he talking about?
Past. That took a huge amount of work with our allies over the last few days and weeks. We have been centrally involved in that, crafting the final outcome, and we were recognised as having done so. I'm proud that we helped put that summit into the right place yesterday, and the world emerged.
Fed posting is violent threats on the internet. But it's actually when you're like, you know. No, don't worry. No, it's fine, don't worry. It's slang that you don't know. History is when something important to me happens, yeah.
Safer as a result, and that was the unanimous view of 32 allies leaving NATO yesterday. For the leader of the opposition,
just say anything.
How irrelevant she and the party opposite are becoming. They used to once be serious about these issues. They used to be capable of cross-party consensus, and all of that is slipping away.
It's true.
We've led on Ukraine.
He's right about that.
3 trade deals. And she talked...
Yeah, also chat, just look at that. Look at this. You a babby. That's better, innit? That's much better content. I know he's like a bit washed out, but can you see the way he's looking? He's looking at my hand. He's like, where's it gone? Where's it gone?
Talks about the prospect of US attack. She must have overlooked the fact that on Tuesday, when I returned from the G7, the first thing I did was go straight into a Cobra meeting to plan for all contingencies, including a possible US attack on Iran. And I'll tell her why I did that, although we did offer Privy Council briefings, so she knows this. We have military personnel co-located in nearly all the bases across the Middle East. And therefore, I was extremely concerned to ensure that immediately on my return, I took every step to ensure I had the highest levels of assuredness that we had the preparations in place to keep our people and our assets safe, should the need arise. So far from being blindsided, we were planning through last week. We were talking to the Americans. We were put on notice about everything that they did. She simply doesn't understand that.
No, you weren't, dude. You know, like, he could say it as much as he likes. Yeah, we were put in notice. We were put on notice for everything that happened. No one was put on notice, dude. I get they have opposing politics, but surely in the face of crisis, two people could come together. It seems so hostile. Yeah, this is why he's right. She's being so unserious, but also she's right that he is like a horrific person and he doesn't know what's going on. Like, they're both right in the toxic way that they're being with each other, but it's disgusting. Like, these are the people who are in charge of what's going on, and neither of them are concerned about what's going on with the working people of this country, and that's the worst part about it. They're clowns. This is a circus.
The nature of the relationship at that level. In relation to Diego Garcia, let me disabuse her. We do not have to give Mauritius advance notice under the treaty. That is absolutely clear. And she talks about defence spend. We are the party that has increased defence spend to the highest level since the Cold War, 2.5%.
Right. Okay, but like, same thing, yeah? Same thing. He is like, we've raised, like, this is a shit answer, but like, I don't care because it's not something that I support, right? But he is lying. This is just scoring points. This is like sparring. It's just garbage. In fact, you know what? Let's move on. Let's check out some other stuff. We're gonna listen to James O'Brien, libbed up James, libbed up, skibbed up, skibbity toilet. chibbed up, chebbed up, scrabbed up James O.B. Talk about if he thinks Starmer is finished.
Let's start with a text. Everyone's a critic. This is from Michael. Not you two, he writes. That's you two, as in me too, not as in Bono and The Edge and the rest of them. Not you two. The drumbeat of criticism over U-turns, which are actually signs of collegiate and listening policy making, is designed to destabilise this young government. The right-wing...
What are you on about? Oh, man. James might have like a good take on this, probably, but this text is like so funny. Not you two.
As in me too, not as in Bono and The Edge and the rest of them. Not you two. The drumbeat of criticism over U-turns, which are actually signs of collegiate and listening policy making, is designed to destabilise this young government. The right-wing...
It's like a psycho Starmerite texting in, just being like, how dare you criticise Starmer, he's doing a U-turn. It's like, well, a U-turn isn't happening. If he's talking in relation to the welfare stuff, a U-turn isn't happening. That's not what's happening. He's desperately trying to win back the support of the rebel MPs who have voted for this amendment to the bill. That's what's happening. If a government can be destabilised by critique, it deserves to die. Right. You know what I mean?
Press still
Insane.
Can't stand the fact they lost. As someone brilliant once said, there's no point in having a mind if you can't change it.
And these people are that person who wrote that text is completely blinkered by the manufacturing consent machine. They cannot see. What they see is the right-wing press are there to fight the left-wing government. Right, but one huge thing missing, the government isn't left-wing. It's not left-wing. And this person is not seeing that it goes beyond that. The press, not just the right-wing press, the mainstream media press in this country are unequivocally in support of billionaires, in support of people who are constantly destroying us, destroying our rights as working people, making things harder for us, making things harder for everybody, some of the most vulnerable people in society, And also, ironically enough, that guy clearly can't have his mind changed. Well, the thing is, PM Triox, is that you mean the guy that's writing in? Yeah. Probably true. Yeah.
Who can spot the U2 link with that line? Michael is very kindly and slightly sarcastically referring to me, but it was actually Edward de Bono, who was a philosopher before he joined U2. It was Edward de Bono who actually made that observation first. That's a bit niche, that, isn't it? If you've got to explain a joke, it probably isn't working. I hope Michael's right. Okay, I hope Michael's right. I hope that I have fallen victim to chatter and noise. And I can begin today's first phone-in by listing all the things that are stacked against Keir Starmer. Here's a really weird thing.
Oh, he loves Keir Starmer, doesn't he?
Wrong, so by all means...
He's not even in focus. Is this my settings? It's in 1080p. Why can't they, focus on him properly? I don't understand. Is someone not operating this camera?
Bung me a text, 034560609.
Can you see that? The focus is on the microphone, not his head.
73 for WhatsApp, 84850 for texts, if you can find one. But I haven't been able to find
it's just LBC, innit?
Compelling defence of the welfare bill. I know the rationale behind it is that there is a necessity to save money, and also that there is a failure in the system to help people who want to work.
No, I don't like James O'Brien.
Because of the odds that are...
I think that James O'Brien is possibly one of the more stupider journalists who, if he knew that he was manufacturing consent, he might go, oh, maybe I should stop doing this. But he doesn't. And he continues to manufacture consent. I don't think he gets his sources. I don't think he's a proper journalist. I don't think he gets his reports from proper good sources. I don't think he challenges his audience to do critical thinking. I don't think I think there are some broadcasts where he's done that, and I don't think I just don't, like, they're overshadowed by so much uncritical support of the Labour Party, Keir Starmer's government, all that kind of stuff. There's only one good O'Brien, and he's in engineering, right?
Stacked against them to be addressed, so people can end up languishing against their wishes on benefits, disability,
he's a union man.
Benefits. I understand all of that, but I haven't seen a single compelling defence of the detail of this bill. We only really scratched the surface of it yesterday, but what became immediately clear is the vulnerability of people with fluctuating conditions. The near impossibility, but I don't believe impossibility, but the the enormous difficulty of framing a system, a working system, a system of work which can accommodate people who don't know until they get up in the morning, and often not even then, whether they're going to be capable of working that day or how many hours they're going to be able to do that day.
I mean, this is a good take. Like, this is the thing about James O'Brien that frustrates me. He has good takes, but a lot of the time he is just so antithetical to critical thinking that it just stresses me out so much. Like, he did such a bad job on Gaza before he finally realized, oh no, I've been manufacturing consent for a genocide. And it was only after so many call-ins, so many texts, so many people saying to him, you are being a piece of shit, that he was like, okay. Complete aside, is it weird to anyone else after he said he's a union man that every O'Brien episode just tortured the shit out of him? Yeah, the great suffering of Chief O'Brien. Yeah, I'll never forget it.
So a fluctuating condition which will include many people listening to this program and far beyond, people who are contacting their MPs to tell them that they're terrified. And listen, you can send me texts. I'm in a surprisingly wonderful mood today, so you can send me all the nasty texts you like about scroungers and freeloaders and how we've got to get rid of them and none of them deserve it, and you know someone who went to school with someone whose mum was married to someone who was a right old scrounger and all of that malarkey. But that doesn't...
See, he's good at stuff like this, for sure. Like, this is the thing. He's good at very, very basic, easy things that it's easy to be good at. But as soon as it comes to geopolitics, I just think his brain is just headers up his ass. And like I said, it took him so long to figure out, what was going on. Yeah.
Doesn't actually change the simple reality that an awful lot of the most vulnerable people in the country believe that they're about to be punched in the face by a government that they thought would be on their side. And if I were to make that list of things that are stacked against Keir Starmer, I would include the fact that he doesn't really have any cheerleaders in the media. You might think I am, but that is a terrible reflection of, in the same way that, what's his chops in the Daily Mail, Richard Littlejohn, described me as hard left last week, which I imagine has caused an enormous intake of breath among people who are actually hard left. But it's all...
Well, at least he admits it. At least he admits it.
Relative, isn't it? If you think someone who isn't sticking the boot into Keir Starmer every single day for reasons that they probably can't explain to you is a cheerleader, then it's only because of what everybody else is doing all the time. And so one of the things stacked against Keir Starmer...
Oh, man. Say that again, dude.
For reasons that they probably can't explain to you is a cheerleader, then it's only because...
Whoa.
Intake of breath among people who are actually hard left. But it's all relative, isn't it? If you think someone who isn't sticking the boot into Keir Starmer every single day for reasons that they probably can't explain to you is a cheerleader, then it's only because of what everybody else is doing all the time. And so one of the things stacked against Keir Starmer is the absolute absence, really,
He's kind of right about that.
For his government from a tribal or a partisan position.
More relevant, or I could be confusing this guy with someone else, but hasn't he been pretty starkly against Israel's genocide since it started? What, James? Maybe, I don't know, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. From what I remember, I remember it being, he's against it now, that's for sure. But I remember pretty vividly that he was pretty fucking shit on it for a good while. I'm terrible with names, and his face seems familiar. He's definitely not been against it from the start. I don't think that's true. I don't know if that's true. I could be wrong. If someone wants to give me like a clip of him after October the 7th just being like, it's Israel's fault that this happened, great, good stuff, I'll take that. But yeah, I just think that it's probably, I just can't remember it. I can't remember it. He's clearly being a shit right now. I mean, look, on this issue, he's being kind of okay. He's being kind of okay, and I know that he's come out since the genocide unfolding in Gaza, where he's gone, I hold my hands up, I've got it wrong, but like my only contention is I don't think he's been against it since it started. I don't know if that's the case
in the media. One of the reasons
but I'm willing to be wrong on that.
Like him, and this is damning him with faint praise, is because of.
But again, the reason that I find it so like. He's here like, oh, I'm not a cheerleader of Keir Starmer, but he has been in the past,
He isn't Liz Truss. He isn't Boris Johnson. He isn't David Cameron. He isn't Jeremy Corbyn.
Oh my God! Wait, what?
A tribal or a
what? Is he really saying this?
Really, of support for his government from a tribal or a partisan position in the media. One of the reasons I like him, and this is damning him with faint praise, is because of who he isn't. He isn't Liz Truss. He isn't Boris Johnson. He isn't David Cameron. He isn't Jeremy Corbyn.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. This is why I don't like him. Because he has like just the worst politics when it comes to this stuff. Oh, well, he isn't Liz Truss, he isn't Jeremy Corbyn, he isn't this, he isn't that.
He isn't any of the people who were either incapable of running a party or incapable of running a country.
Oh my God.
Not a particularly glowing endorsement, is it? Who's your favourite? Oh, well, I don't know I'm just glad it's not any of that. But he keeps the terrible people out of power. He has kept the terrible people out.
Oh, bro, he is so terrible. What are you talking about?
Probably a slightly unfair analysis of Rishi Sunak, that, but we'll leave that, as we said yesterday.
What are you on about? What are you on about? What are you on about? Yeah, all of those politicians are exactly the same. Nothing about them that sticks out for being much more progressive.
For the history teachers.
This is what I mean. No critical thinking, no brain. Literally zero brain.
History writers and history teachers of the future. But if I can't find a single cogent and compelling defence, so I'm just going to check my inbox actually to see if you've sent me any, of the bill in its current form. And the fact that over 120 Labour MPs are minded to reject it.
The bill is clearly to take money from marginalised, vulnerable people and put it into defence spending, which is, part of the priority of the government to engage in imperialist endeavours abroad and put more money into defence spending, put more money into the new F-35A nuclear bomb carrying fighter jets that they just purchased from the US because Donald Trump told them to. This is the obvious analysis. This is what frustrates me so much about the British media classes, that like I'm sat here, I'm literally a fucking guy on benefits, yeah. I don't even get fucking paid like a minimum wage for doing this shit. Even when I was surviving on this platform, doing it as my job, I just did not receive minimum wage for doing it. And even I've got a better political analysis than this guy who's earning probably 5 times as much as I am, probably more, for going on a fucking talk show each day and just going, well, at least Keir Starmer's not Liz Truss or Jeremy Corbyn. What are you talking about? What kind of fucking political analysis is this? Nonsense.
Is pretty huge, politically speaking. It is not a leadership ending moment.
Oh, yes. Okay, this is great. Because James O'Brien has said that, it's going to come true now. Fantastic. Great. Good stuff. Good stuff. I know about the defence spend, but what else is in the bill? The bill that people are criticising.
Do you remember Dirty Jen?
Payday today.
Oh my God, Johnny, thank you so much for the... What was that? Fucking £90? Oh my God. Yo, wait, what? Holy shit. Thank you so much for the dono, dude. Thank you so much for supporting the stream. Thank you so much for subbing off Twitch. You are so incredibly generous. It was £60, but thank you so much. I appreciate that so much. You are a star. You are a star. Thank you for supporting the stream. Thank you for subbing off Twitch. Just think, chat, you could make me that happy if you donated even a £5. You know, don't let Johnny and Steph shoulder the burden of paying my bills. Yeah, that's the constant story with journalists and politicians. They're paid big bucks to fail and do the bare minimum, while I'd rather pick a homeless guy who probably still knows less than me on a topic. Yeah, exactly. Hey, Middle-earth Marxists, how you doing? Keep the AUKUS cash rolling, because nuclear submarines are the smartest platforms to work within the drone age. Yeah, that's it. The thing is, Muffin Man 88, is that what the current bill that people are criticising Keir Starmer for, Steph! Steph, thank you for the 1312.
Meow meow, Starmer's a bastard, meow meow.
Thanks so much for the 1312. Really appreciate that. Thank you for supporting off Twitch. Thank you for supporting the stream. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate all the donos today. Thanks so much. As I was saying, Muffin Man 88, the most important thing to remember about the bill that is being criticised today is that it's going to take a lot of PIP away from disabled people. Disabled people get PIP. It's not their main form of income from the benefits system. A lot of the times people who have PIP are also working. So it isn't just that people who don't work get PIP. People who work get PIP, because disabled people, even if they can work, which a lot of disabled people are unfortunately forced to do, even if they can't work because of their disability, they have to get PIP payments to help them with the extra costs associated with being disabled. So that might mean taxis if you suffer from pain, if you suffer from chronic pain. God, the fucking sun is like washing out my head so hard. Hang on. Like, my partner, for example, suffers with chronic pain, and if she goes and does a grocery shop, she can't carry the groceries back to her house. She would have to get a taxi. And so PIP is designed to help her with that, even though she only gets £10 a month or £10 a week. I can't remember what it is, but it's some mealy, ridiculous, completely inappropriate amount of money. But yeah, so that's essentially what it's going to cut. Thousands and thousands of pounds are going to be lost by people, who are basically getting that money.
Deeply damaging prospect of defeat or another surrender, another U-turn, another reverse, whatever it may be. And if no one, apart from this, let me find you something that these are the only people that that think that they're in support of the bill. And I can't imagine that they're people who are ever going to vote for the Labour Party. But here's Nikki writing, your privilege is clouding your judgment here. The number of people who don't want to work is far more significant than you allow for. So
some of these people just can't be allowed in society. Like, saying that in relation to this bill is disgusting. There are there are disabled people out there who would, you know, I can't speak for every disabled person, but most disabled people that you speak to would say, and I was temporarily disabled with a long-term health condition as well, right? So I understand this, in that if you asked anyone who has a condition that causes their life to be completely different, essentially disabled by society, if you ask them, would you like to work if you had the chance, if you could get rid of some of your conditions and that would enable you to work, would you do it? They would say yes. It is disgusting that people say this kind of thing about disabled people. It's horrific. But how can we be surprised? How can we even remotely be shocked about the fact that this will just be the way that people think when the manufacturing consent machine is turned so high up against people who are marginalized? Trans people, migrants, disabled people. It'll only keep getting worse and worse and worse.
There is a perception that this is aimed at scroungers.
He is, Johnny. He's incredibly infuriating.
No one is claiming that it's aimed at scroungers. So there's the second big thing that's stacked against him, is that the nature of coverage, the nature of political coverage and the ownership in many ways of our national media has skewed the proposal entirely, because someone like Nikki comes away thinking this is all about getting rid of the scroungers, so somehow whip-cracking people into work or leaving them to starve if they refuse. Yes, there's so many scroungers, and that is a widespread perception. It's been probably the first lesson I learned presenting this show was the ease with which people can be persuaded that everybody on any benefit is a scrounger. Do you remember when everyone would wang on endlessly about flat-screen televisions? People were still wanging on
that's right, Doggo Duck.
flat screen televisions long after it became impossible to buy a television in this country that wasn't flat screen. I had a sort of road to Damascus moment at the tip of all places.
Exactly, Naptaker. Yeah, Naptaker says, I get PIP if I was able to go to college plus uni for childcare and get a full-time job working in a primary school. I would take that cunt by the fucking throat and accept it with all my being, but I physically can't. This is the thing. This is the reality for most disabled people.
You know, the pile in the corner of all the electronic goods. I remember every single television is a flat screen television. So we've now reached the point in human history where the only flat screen televisions that you're throwing out are flat screen televisions, because it's impossible to buy one that isn't.
What is he talking about? What does he mean? How is this He was talking about having like an epiphany. He was talking about having like a religious experience that informs his politics. What is he going to say next?
But still they wanged on. So the perception there is that it's designed to hit scroungers, and the reality of Labour rebellion is that it's...
What did I miss? Chat, what did I miss? Oh, right.
Remember when everyone would wang on endlessly about flat screen televisions? People were still wanging on endlessly about flat screen televisions long after it became impossible to buy a television in this country that wasn't flat screen.
Wait, what is he talking about? There was discourse associated with flat screen televisions. What is he on about?
I had a sort of road to Damascus moment at the tip of all places. You know, the pile in the corner of all the electronic goods. I remember every single television is a flat screen television. So we've now reached the point in human history where the only flat screen televisions that you're throwing out are flat screen televisions, because it's impossible.
What's he talking about? What's this got to do with anything? You would expect this kind of chat from like me. you know, John Fucko with a Twitch stream, right? You would expect like this level of chat from me. He's saying right-wingers are constantly complaining about poor people using benefits to buy expensive items like flat-screen TVs. Right, that's what he's saying. Okay, I didn't know what the fuck he was on about. It's incoherent. It's completely mental.
But still they wanged on. So the perception there is that it's designed to hit scroungers, and the reality of the Labour rebellion is that it's going to hit people who are the opposite of scroungers. It's going to hit people who are among the most vulnerable. It's going to...
Among the most vulnerable? What is he doing, dude? What is he doing? Was he signal? Is that something? Was he signaling?
The opposite of scroungers. It's going to hit people who are among the most vulnerable. It's going to...
Oh, he's asking for a cup of tea. I thought he was like saying the most vulnerable people are alcoholics. He was gesturing to his producer to get him another cup of tea, or the runner, or whatever. Anyway,
hurt people, the people that we spoke to yesterday.
Oh yeah, lots of Brits have like massive mugs for tea and coffee and shit. Yeah, it's a bit of a cool British thing. I've got massive mugs, you know. I have a funny little idea from a goofy little guy, but I think even scroungers should be able to live in a house and eat food. Yeah. Me too. He's misunderstood the gripe about being the type of telly they have, when really it's about people on benefits not being allowed joy on the taxpayers' money. Yeah.
We are, however, skinned. If this was a...
Always remember this famous Vladimir Horowitz quote from his conversation with Parappa the Rapper. I flammed my pianist in the car door.
Thank you so much, Ludo, for the £5. Thank you so much for supporting the stream. Thank you so much for subbing off Twitch. Every little helps. Thanks so much, gang. Really, really appreciate you. And you're right, Vladimir Horowitz did say, I flammed my penis in the car door. That is what
household
Vladimir Horowitz
would be
said.
On our uppers, you know. If this was a household, we'd be living on muesli. The scale of the debt, the servicing of the debt is off the charts. And
isn't muesli quite expensive?
To suggest that
I don't get muesli, I get porridge.
Or save money, then the way to do it is to go after the people who've got the most, not the people who've got the least. Listen, I have an inner undergraduate that's very near the surface some mornings, and it's quite near the surface today. This madness, this mad marriage to the idea of not having any tax rises, while simultaneously reducing welfare among disabled and poorly people, is extraordinary. But it is where we are. So somewhere between those...
He's having a good take moment here. I am too critical of this guy sometimes, but again, it's like Doggo Duck says, he's a wet blanket liberal.
Those two observations,
so, you know,
lies the truth. There is...
muesli is expensive. He's not. He's. This is the thing. This is the problem with James O'Brien. He's on LBC. He's got a good wage. You know what I mean? He's operating under the 90s era neoliberal understanding of how poor people live. Yeah, exactly. That's the problem.
Still got a tickly throat if you were listening yesterday. It's better than it was, but until I start, I mean, I know what you're thinking. Why don't you do shorter monologues, and then your throat will probably recover quicker. You've got a point there. You don't have to cheer quite so enthusiastically at the prospect. So it's impossible to find a really compelling defence of this bill. But at the same time, it's impossible to find pretty much anybody who is going to take a bullet for Keir Starmer. It's...
What point is he going to make?
The number of MPs that have signed up to oppose it that worries me the most.
Is he unwell?
That convinces me the most that he has really, really messed up. And that is, in case you were wondering, where this phone-in is going to go. It's too early to contemplate a leadership change. This is why Michael's cross with me, even for talking about it. And I agree, but it is going incredibly badly. I don't buy the idea. I would do with one or two, but if you've got two of the biggest things they've done, the winter fuel and the welfare, you can use the word collegiate until you're blue in the face. You can tell me how uplifting and heartening it is to have leaders that actually listen, but from now till Christmas. But these are clangers of epic proportions that have been dropped upon the feet of the people who introduced them. These are huge missteps and mistakes.
Okay, at least he's admitting that.
And I want to know why you think it's happening. I want to know what is going wrong. The Ming vase that was so successfully carried across the ice rink hasn't been dropped, it's been delivered. The Ming vase arrives on its plinth the minute Keir Starmer gets into power, gets into Downing Street.
What's he on about?
And because of that factor one,
Oh, he's talking about how easy it would have been to clean up after the Conservative government. Okay.
Massed ranks of the UK media being so obviously stacked against him. We don't know much about the good stuff. Most obviously for me, probably the workers' rights and the beginning of a renationalisation programme on the railway.
Also, he's not right.
We do know that
about the. He's not right about the. What was the thing he said? The UK media being obviously against Keir Starmer. He's not right about that. The neoliberal people writing for like The Atlantic and shit love him. They absolutely fucking love him because he's like a moldable leader. Filthy Rebels says, why are Antifa protests so violent? It's because when people turn out to protest Antifa, they're normally FAR, which is fascist, filthy rebel. That's right. That's correct.
Don't know much about the good stuff. Most obviously for me, probably the workers' rights and the beginning of a renationalisation programme on the railways. But we do know that two of the biggest issues, two of the biggest things that they've done, the winter fuel allowance and the welfare bill, are both, well, one has already been abandoned and the other one I think is, well, it's either going to be abandoned or he's going to get spanked in the House of Commons on Tuesday. So what is going on? And sometimes, can I tell you a secret?
Don't tell me any fucking secrets, man.
I think I may have told you this before, but the vaguer the question I ask you, sometimes
Antifa, do you mean Muffin Man? This chatter is referring to anti-fascists.
The harder it is to get good answers, the harder it is to get interesting answers. So I'm a little bit allergic to vague questions, but sometimes they're the only questions that work because you're stepping so far back from the detail in order to take in the entire vista, the entire landscape of modern British politics. How badly is it going? Polling today has Farage's outfit as the largest party if there were to be a general election tomorrow. You can't rule out that possibility. I'm afraid if we've learned anything over the last 10 years, we've learned that people do not learn from history. They do not learn from the past. So, the idea that someone that was pro-Brexit...
Mention another one, sorry.
Liz Truss, let's have another go. Let's
do you remember what it was?
The brick wall for a fourth, fifth, sixth time in the hope that this time the wall will break as opposed to our heads. That is evidence that 1 year in, and it's only a year, things are going really badly for this government, according to both party...
Oh, you're on about FAR. I was doing a joke. Because this person said, why are Antifa protests so violent? And it's always fun when people with a name like Filthy Rebel come in and they're absolutely not even remotely a rebel. You could tell immediately that their politics are going to be completely aligned with the establishment ruling class. And they're like, I'm a rebel. I'm a rebel for agreeing with everything that the ruling class says that I should agree with.
Management and public opinion. Have a crack at defending it for me, please. I don't think you will. That's why it's not the phone-in today. All LBC presenters can throw open their switchboard at the top of the show and be absolutely inundated with people who are terrified of the impacts of the welfare bill. It's important and it's interesting. But it's a bit easy, frankly. And it's less easy to
Hey, Ashrand, how are you doing?
Detail, as I say.
Morgan McSweeney fails to pilot an empty suit into power. Jimbo O'Brien, it's not rocket science, mate.
Try and work out why they're getting it all
again,
if indeed you think they are.
Good to see you, Ashrand. Not seen you in a long time. Hope you're doing okay. But also, like, I do want to push back on some people who seem to be. Sorka said it the other week. Morgan McSweeney, it's the same kind of like Dominic Cummings character. Like, this high level aide is pushing someone who doesn't, is just like a puppet to do loads of stuff, and it's like you're forgetting that establishment politicians like Keir Starmer don't give a fuck about any of the stuff that they're doing. It's a silly billy role for them. They don't care. All they care about is making as much money as possible. They're a career politician. Exactly the same with Boris Johnson. Yeah, he actually thinks Keir Starmer's a political genius. Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. Yeah.
So there it is. Why is it going so badly? 03456060973.
My issue with Morgan McSweeney is more so the things he's already done. Yeah, that's fair enough, Sorka. Yeah. I think we clarified that the other week anyway.
Can I ask both of those questions at the same? How badly is it going? 03456060973.
Oh my God, James. Oh, anyway, listen, chat. It's unfortunately time for me to go. I started the stream a little later than I would have liked to today because I'm working on a video about Palestine actions prescription as a terrorist group. And I think that's important to get out before they are potentially prescribed as a terrorist group, because then I will get arrested for making a video in support of them. So that's fun, isn't it? So I'm going to go ahead and sign off. And do that stuff. But here is the thing. I'm going to send you over to another streamer. We're going to go raid Sean the Black. Who Ethan Klein has implied that he is going to sue, apparently. For, the reasons that you probably know. Anyway. Join me for a raid to go see Sean. Raid messages are in the chat. First one is the sub message. First one is the non-subbed message. Chat, please don't forget, this is my full-time job at the minute. I need this to pay my bills, my rent, etc. We're at £445. Very, very close to hitting the goal of 600 quid. That would be great if we could hit that this month. That means that we will do a Trash Bingo stream next month where I play terrible games and you can win good ones. Don't forget also, you could sub off Twitch. You could sub to my Patreon. I would much prefer a sub to the Patreon. I would also really, really like it if you could do some promo on my socials. Go to the link at the top of the chat right now. And click on the videos. Give them a like. Give them a comment. And that will help them in the algorithm. But I will be back on Sunday with Red Planet. So make sure you go check out Red Planet live on Twitch. If you haven't already, you can check out our YouTube channel as well. I will see you there. And also, I will be back streaming here on Monday. So I'll see you on Monday, 2 p.m. Enjoy your weekend. Stay excellent to each other. Peace, 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 peace.